current chair of the Park and Rec Commission. I'm calling the meeting to order at 6:31. Our first item on the agenda is our open forum. This is an opportunity for members of the public to ask the commission questions or bring up points of order that are not on the agenda. So do we have anybody here for open forum this evening? Okay. Just some housekeeping. We are recording this meeting via Zoom, and it is also being recorded on WestfordCAT, so it will be available for view later. Our first item on the agenda this evening is a discussion on the Nutting Road Fields project. We have a analysis of the costs associated with keeping the fields artificial turf, as well as the costs associated with converting the fields to natural grass. The presentation will be provided by the head of our Department of Public Works, Kyle Fox. I'm going to ask that we hold questions till the end of the presentation, and then we'll open up the floor for questions both for people in the audience, members of the commission, as well as folks who are on Zoom. And if you are on Zoom watching us this evening and you would like to ask a question, you can use the raise hand feature, or you can type a question in the Q&A section of the webinar. All right, with that, Kyle, we'll turn it over to you. And if Mike, if you could bring the presentation up on the screen, that would be great. And can people see that okay from the back of the room when it comes up?
Turn some of these lights off?
Or do we need to turn the front lights off? Is that visible? Yeah, everybody's good? Okay. All right. Kyle, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. I appreciate the opportunity to present some information on the Nutting Community Fields turf replacement project. Next slide, please. Tonight I'm going to follow an agenda. We'll briefly go over the history of the property, talk about the current conditions, then go over the project scope from two standpoints: turf replacement or convert to grass fields. We'll talk about some environmental considerations, space considerations, a little cost analysis between the two options, and then we'll chat just briefly about some other considerations. So the community fields were constructed in 2012 at a cost of $1.28 million. 1.21 million of that came from CPC funds, and the remaining 70,000 were raised through donations. The playing surface is 4.6 acres, and it originally had an estimated life of 8 to 10 years. And this year, currently, we've started our 14th season on this field. So one of the ways to tell how your field is performing over time is to do what's called a GMAX test. And what that measures is the shock attenuation of a synthetic turf or a natural grass surface to assess player safety. Basically, the lower the number, the better. And generally, readings on a new surface are around 130. And if you get up to 200, you're failing. Where the GMAX test is, it's a prescribed methodology depending on what kind of field you have. For our fields, they used the soccer layout, which you can see in the picture up here. And there's 10 spots that they test. And what that allows for is repeatability and basically not cherry picking results. So when we tested back in December, a few months ago, our readings on field 1 ranged from 171 to 210, with an average of 193. On field 2, it was basically about the same range. The average was a little bit higher, about 196. So we knew we had to do some remediation work. So we contracted with a vendor. It was someone who worked for the company who originally installed the field. He has his own company now, but he came in and he had given us some recommendations, some of which we took. So basically they cut out 4 areas which were the worst scoring areas, and those being the goal mouth of the lacrosse fields. So they cut out those 4 areas to put in some new turf. The issue being the turf was so worn, it started at about 2 inches when it was brand new, and as it wears from use, the grass gets shorter and shorter, and what that does is it lowers its ability to hold the infill, and the infill is what gives it its safety for the users. So they were down in that area. It was down to about 3/4 of an inch of turf left. So replaced 4 areas, added a bunch of crumb rubber, and performed other additional maintenance while we were out there. That all happened this spring. You probably saw us out there removing snow. That was an effort to get the contractor out onto the field prior to the season. So post repairs, we retested in March, and on field 1, our readings were much improved. Now they were 156 to 205. We did still have 2 readings that were over 200, but the average dropped down to 179. Field 2's results were even better, with no readings over 200, so that was really great news, with an average of 175. Given that we still had 2 areas that did fail, and we did have a residual recommendation from the vendor to add crumb rubber to the middle third of both fields, because those were still the worst areas of the whole field, because it's the highest use. So our parks maintenance crew, we purchased 20,000 pounds of crumb rubber, and we spread it over the 2 fields to further improve the results. We did not test after that, because it's about $1,500 to retest. And based on the March results, we knew that additional material would make it safe for our players this year. Next slide, please. Yep. So going forward, one of the primary focuses of this meeting is to hopefully make a determination of what direction we want to go. So one option is replace the turf field in kind as it is today. This is an option that was endorsed last year by the Park and Rec Commission, by the Finance Committee, by the Capital Committee, the Select Board, and almost 65% of the voters at town meeting. It did not pass at town meeting because bonded spending requires 2/3 to pass. The estimated cost of the project was $2 million. Which includes about $80,000 for engineering and plan development. It would require a closure of the fields for approximately 6 to 8 weeks. It proposed to add a shock pad, which would increase the warranty from 8 years to 12 years. And the budget amount was set to allow optional choices on the infill material. On the low end is the crumb rubber that we use today. And that was around $1.5 million. On the high end, there were some options, coated sand, walnut shells, those kind of options, which brought it up to about $2 million. And the plan had been to bid the project with 3 different infill materials and then make the decision after that as to which option we would choose based on the results of the bids. I should note that in this analysis, I took it as there's no impact on future operating budgets over the current budget for this option, because we're already maintaining this field as it is. So there's no delta in work effort for a replacement in kind. Next slide, please. Going to another option of
Can you speak up so the back of the room can hear? Because nothing in the room is amplified.
Yes, I'm sorry, I will try. Yep. So the second option we're going to discuss tonight is replacing the turf fields with a grass field. This estimated cost is about $2.1 million and includes about $114,000 for engineering and plan development. It would require the closure of fields for approximately a year if we used sod as the grass, perhaps even 2 years if we use seed. and waited for natural growth. It would require the removal of the turf field subbasin infrastructure. We would need to increase the cross slope of the field. The grass fields require an increased cross slope over the turf field to get the water off of the field quicker. That could increase additional site work on the project. The sidewalk all the way around it would probably need to be changed, and probably some of the fencing to accommodate that increase in cross slope. We would add well-draining soils and drainage infrastructure. We'd add an irrigation system, and we would expect an operating budget increase of approximately $110,000. And that's primarily from one laborer position in our parks maintenance group, paint, seed, fertilizer, water, and all those kind of incidental items that a grass field requires over a turf field. Next slide. Next up is some environmental considerations that we looked at prior to town meeting in our Park and Rec Commission meetings, and even more so afterwards. Just a comparison of natural grass field on the left, synthetic turf field on the right, for the various considerations. So water use, obviously it's higher for natural grass fields. Synthetic turf doesn't require watering. Chemical use, grass field has fertilizers, herbicides, pesticides. Synthetic turf may require occasional antimicrobial treatments or cleaning, though I will say we've not had to do it on our field. The research I've done promotes the disinfection more so on an inside the building turf, where it's not getting cleansed by the natural sunlight, versus ours being outside gets that natural benefit. Stormwater management, the grass field promotes infiltration and reduces runoff, whereas the synthetic turf field is considered impervious, although there is a water collection system in there that infiltrates all of the stormwater onto the field into a subsurface infiltration system with an overflow. There's heat island effect that can be seen with turf field over grass fields. Carbon footprint, obviously the grass sequesters CO2, but there are motor fuel emission issues to consider. And turf field has a high embodied energy from plastic production and installation. As grass fields support biodiversity habitat through birds, soil, organisms. I will say it also supports geese and geese poop, which we see at a lot of our other fields. The turf field eliminates that habitat.
Kyle, can you guys still hear Kyle in the back? Just want to do a sound check. Everybody's good? Okay, thanks, Kyle.
Thanks, Chris. Back a slide, Mike. Yeah, thanks. Air quality with the grass field generally positive. Emissions from mowers, like I said, are a concern. There is potential off-gassing from plastics and infills to consider as well. Grass fields maintain soil biology and structure, and on the turf field the soils are covered, so there's no soil benefits. Maintenance requirements, obviously that's higher again with the grass field requiring frequent mowing, watering, fertilizing, striping, and aeration. Just for example, striping alone, the surfaces, it's 2 full-size fields that we stripe for 3 sports on each: women's lacrosse, men's lacrosse, and soccer. And currently we do those probably twice a year. With grass fields, we'd have to do that sometimes twice a week, depending on the grass growth. So it really is a significant difference. Usability and durability. Grass has seasonal limits, can become muddy or dormant in cold weather. High durability for turf fields. End-of-life disposal. Grass fields are biodegradable, no special disposal requirements. disposal of turf and infill is difficult and costly, and it may contain non-recyclable plastics or PFAS. So space considerations. Obviously, with our grass fields, they require a lot more downtime to recover from use, especially after wet weather. This spring has been tough on the sports teams, and believe me, we hear you. There are usage limitations. We can typically support 20 to 24 hours a week of programming without damaging grass turf. We're generally limited to spring through fall and often closed during rainy conditions. And just for the record, we opened the grass fields this year on April 14th. But they have been closed periodically since then due to the amount of rain we've received. And again, maintenance requirements for grass fields are high. Turf fields, on the other hand, they can handle about 60 to 80 hours a week of programming with minimal wear. It's an all-weather surface, playable shortly after rain. It is usable year-round, even in the winter if we remove the snow, which we typically don't do. This year we did open on March 15th, following the repairs to the turf, and the maintenance requirements are lower. Now getting into some cost numbers. This was a challenging exercise, so I tried to do it a couple different ways, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of questions on the methodology, so hopefully at least one of the two ways makes sense to most people. So just based on the estimates we've received, turf field, $2 million. I did just receive updated estimates from the vendor we've been working with at the end of April. And again, the estimates range from $1.5 million to 1.8, depending on the three infill choices. The grass field was 2.1 million. That was an estimate from Gale Associates last fall. I'm sorry, that was in March, excuse me. Tried to figure out a useful life for each product. The useful life for if we go with the shock pad option, which I would recommend, if we go turf, we do the shock pad. One, because it increases the warranty period from 8 years to 12 years, and it gives us a useful life of 15 years. For grass, the number I found was 25 years, and I took that from a presentation that one of our community members sent us a link to a presentation that the Lexington LexCan folks had done, a nice video on Give Grass a Chance, and they had said in that video to use 25 years for life of a grass field. Additional operating costs per year above budget. Again, this is that figure that I noted in the previous slide. And again, we're talking change from current operations to post-construction operations. So the delta for the turf field, I'm calling 0 because it's essentially the same as what we have. For the grass field, again, it's at 110,000, which includes one labor position and the extra materials needed to maintain the surface. So in this scenario, the total cost per year, taking the 2 million divided by 15, gets 133,000 a year. On the grass side, to take the 2.1 million divided by 25 years, add the 110,000 per year, that gives you a cost estimate of 194,000 per year. But that's kind of a short-sighted analysis. So I wanted to do it a second way. Next slide. And kind of look out, at these useful lives for each of the options over. I chose to do 51 years, which equates to 2 replacements of the grass field. So you can see the blue line in the graph represents the turf field. So you can see every 15 years you see a jump, and all of these numbers are inflated by 2% per year. So you see a jump at 15 years, jump at 30 years, and a jump at 45 years. So the expected cost over to that 51st year is about 13.2 million. Conversely, with the grass option, the first replacement doesn't happen until year 25. Then it takes a jump, and then the second replacement at year 50. So definitively, over the long term, it can be said, acre per acre, the grass field long term is cheaper. So that's what I was trying to show here. Some other considerations to think about. Surface consistency is better with turf. It's consistent, flat, uniform. Grass can become uneven due to wear, weather, overuse, particularly the higher use areas, goal mouth, the center of the fields. Traction and footing, it's more predictable on the turf. It can be variable. Kids like to dig holes with their cleats into grass fields. We see that on our baseball, softball fields and our other grass fields. The ball rolls better on turf, more predictable bounce and faster ball speed. Obviously slower on grass fields. One of the biggest complaints we get from our users, from say Jack Walsh, is the slow speed of the ball due to the turf length and grass length, and I'll get to that a little more in a second. Weather resilience, synthetic turf drains quickly. The grass is susceptible to mud and puddling, limited use in wet conditions. Seasonal availability, we've talked about that. Injury considerations, you can find a study on either side as to which is better, which is worse. In general, grass can offer a softer surface, lower abrasion risk if you're sliding. Synthetic turf may increase joint stress or surface-related injuries. And policy guidance, I wanted to throw a bit in about that because it partially came up at our last meeting last month. And it goes to the slower ball roll. One of the things that Westford is passionate about is trying to reduce chemical use, fertilizer use, pesticide use. And many years ago, the Select Board adopted a policy of integrated pest management and limited fertilizers. So we follow those policies. In order to do that and achieve a long-lasting surface, we need to often have the grass length longer than some of our users would prefer. But it's a result of policies that we're trying to follow in town and presumably would need to be followed on nutting. Another consideration is field space. Grass fields require 2 to 4 times the number of fields to provide the same use allowance for turf fields. Again, this was another stat I got from that really good video from the LexCan folks. Westford doesn't currently have available land for future grass fields, and of course, to do that development of additional fields, one, you'd have to find and locate the land, possibly pay for it, but you'd also have to pay for the development of the field. So those cost charts, like I said, that I did before, were based on acre per acre. If you go even on the low end of equivalent space, 2 times grass per 1 time of turf, then the costs are really going to be noticeably different in the comparison. So that's my presentation to the commission. I'd be happy to entertain any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle. All right, Commission, at this time, I'll entertain questions from you, or would you like to hear from the audience members first? It's your choice.
Here for them, yeah.
Audience, okay. If anybody in the audience has a question, I'm going to ask that they come up to this mic. Is that the one that's hot? The one that's standing? Yes?
So.
Okay, so the mic that's hot, then if you would, just please identify yourself, full name, and your address for our record keeping.
Hi, Christy Bates, Pierce Avenue. Quick question. Kyle, when you looked at this, you mentioned the Lexington study that they just did. They looked at high performance grass as well. Did you consider looking at that?
I didn't, one, because I couldn't find much information about it. And in their presentation, they noted that it would be a contracted service because even the Lexington staff evidently didn't have the capacity or wasn't capable of it. So I didn't really get that in depth in it, mostly because I couldn't find a lot of information on it.
Okay, thanks. And when you're calculating the cost, are you taking into account how it's funded? I mean, part of the reason that
did not.
we're here is because, I think, people were talking about look at grass, and CPC would cover grass, and I think CPC has gotten back to you and saying that not that they would necessarily approve it, but CPC funds could be used for grass fields where they could not be used for synthetic.
Correct.
And so,
So no, I did not factor that in.
okay,
Yep.
so
That's a policy decision of the residents of Westford. So
okay.
I'm just trying to compare equal to equal.
Thank you. And one last question. Are you also taking into consideration the Westford Academy field, which was put in at the exact same time?
Correct. I did not take that into account.
And has the Park and Rec Commission considered that?
It's not under our auspices, unfortunately. So our understanding is that the school's been made aware that they have 2 more years of useful life left on that field, but we're not aware of what they're planning to do for replacement.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the audience? Yes?
Maggie Loud back here.
Yeah, you're kind of in the back, aren't you? Yeah, we'll give it a shot. Just
I just wanted to clarify or had a question.
if I could just get your name, ma'am, and your address.
Yep,
Thank you.
Lauren Tajima, we're on, at 5 Sunny Meadow.
Can you say that again? We didn't catch that.
Sorry, Lauren Tajima, we're at 5 Sunny Meadow. I just wanted to kind of ask or clarify when you spelled out the cost and the potential extension of grass field time, that if you looked again, like over 25 years, it could potentially be less cost at the end of the day. But that's not taking into consideration the fact that we'd need, that's only taking into consideration acre to acre, not that we would need basically double the space to have the same usability as the nutting fields currently have, correct?
That's correct.
So in the long run, if you wanted that usability, that ends up actually being significantly more expensive because you'd need to double that? Am I?
If that was the decision the town made to go that direction, yes.
Any other questions?
Julie Oliver, Morning Glory Circle. First question I have is, with CPC funds, when these fields were done in 2012, you showed that CPC funds were used plus 70,000 of donations. So are you saying that's off the table now? Because
there was legislation passed by the state that prohibited the use of CPA money for turf fields.
okay, my second question is, why are we even considering grass fields?
It was a question that came up during our previous deliberations, or I should say the commission's deliberations prior to town meeting, and there was a discussion at town meeting that asked for that analysis.
Okay, because the analysis that I'm looking at, I don't know why we're spending time talking about grass fields. There's so many reasons why it's not beneficial to why we have these fields and how long it's going to take to construct them, and we're not going to have enough space. So personally, I think, why aren't we just throwing that out and saying, how can we do the turf fields in a financially affordable way?
Thank you for your feedback. As Kyle pointed out, we did have a robust conversation at the floor of town meeting, and there were people who raised questions about why a grass alternative wasn't looked at, particularly from a cost perspective, and that's one of the reasons why we're here tonight doing this. But you made some very good points. Any other questions? Yes.
Noel Almeida, 41 West Street. 2 questions. The first one is one of the biggest reasons turf is good is because the seasons, right? You can start in April or March, whenever. Have you done an analysis on how many hours the turf field is used during the year compared to grass?
I did not do that analysis.
Roughly, is it like, you already know that, 60 hours a week you can use as opposed to 20 to 24?
Yeah, the data that I found online and through the LexCan report was about 60 to 80 hours a week on a turf field versus 20 to 24 on a grass field.
Times, plus you'll add some weeks on the shoulders, right?
Yes,
Okay,
correct.
all right. So it's roughly 4 or 5 times as much used, right? Or usable?
The available usability from all the research I did, one from the LexCan video,
Right.
but from other sources, all generally agreed with that 2 to 4 times
Okay,
stat.
all right. Second question is, do you charge money for use of the fields at all? Because I've seen people
do.
use it who are not students or town residents.
Yep.
Is there a revolving fund? Is there a budget?
Yeah, so the funds raised through the permit fees for all of our fields go into a revolving fund.
Okay,
And those fees are used to support the materials that Parks Maintenance uses to maintain the fields.
I see. How much is it about a year?
Oh, boy. I have that somewhere.
In other words, it's not enough to put into some kind of a,
It is not. The fund is
Payment,
not
okay.
increasing by leaps and bounds.
all right,
I think it's about $125,000 a year
okay,
is
Thank you.
is kind of the balance of where we're at.
all right, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, we probably won't.
Loud enough?
Yeah, if you really, but
Sorry. I'll crawl through.
Is that my portable?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Diane Wood, 122 Depot. Can you hear me back there? Okay, can you hear me back there? Two questions, just one comment and one question. Point out that there are 2 bills at the state level in legislature, a House bill and a Senate bill that you may or may not be aware of. They're currently in the process of disallowing any turf for any municipal fields. It is not passed yet, but that's the direction that it looks as though the state is going in. So it would preclude artificial turf for any municipal, not private lots, but any municipal lots. And then the other comment was, did we talk about CPC funds? Did we talk about how this would be funded? And
We can go over that again, sure. So the way that this project would typically go through the budget funding process is, if this commission decided to recommend it to move forward, it would go on to the Capital Planning Committee. The Capital Planning Committee regularly meets in the fall in preparation for setting the budget for annual town meeting. And during those deliberations, in which they hear from all the town departments and also boards and committees about their capital requests for that year, they look at what we have available in terms of monies from the general fund that we use to pay for capital. Generally, there may not be enough funds, so that committee then tries to prioritize what should be moved forward as a recommendation to the town manager when she's developing her budget. They also look at what projects that come forward that may be eligible for funding using Community Preservation Act funds. And for those of you who are not aware of what that means, is we have a surcharge on our taxes that pay into this Community Preservation Act funds. And we have a committee called the Community Preservation Commission, whose responsibility is to review projects that come forward for funding through CPA and determine, one, if those projects are eligible for funding. The CPA only allows for funding projects that are related to open space, affordable housing, historic preservation, and as a later add-on to the initial legislation, recreation. And within recreation, there are some limitations to what CPA money can be used. We noted earlier that we can no longer use CPA funds for artificial turf fields. So that committee would then review a request if it came before them and then make a recommendation to bring it forward to town meeting. Similarly, the town manager would form her budget. It would go in front of the FinCom. It would go in front of the select board. It would eventually go to town meeting. And there, either if this project came through from CPC side or from the general fund, town meeting voters have the ultimate decision makers in terms of whether or not the project goes forward for funding. Does that answer your question, Dan?
no, well, yes, but
Okay.
is the thinking at this point that we're looking at annual town meeting? Because if we're looking at special town meeting, things need to start moving now, and the research and the data need to start moving now.
That's why we're having these meetings. So yes,
So October is what you're thinking?
that is potentially on the table. It really depends on what happens tonight. and,
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the other comment was, I think there may be misinformation or lots of information regarding the use of CPC funds for artificial turf, because I've read and actually spoken to the state regarding the law regarding CPC, that you cannot use CPC funds for the actual turf itself, but you can use CPC monies for the peripheral tasks that would be related to establishing that field. So I'm just going to throw that out. It's not black and white, it's not simple, but you could get money. And then my last question.
Hold on. So just to address that and to maybe make it clear, that if this project went forward with an in-kind replacement, turf for turf, we would not be able to use CPA money for any of that, okay? Because we're not really changing the footprint of the fields. We're not installing anything new that might be eligible for CPA money. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
As a replacement. Last but not least, has there been discussion about fundraising at all? Because when the fields were initially put in, as Kyle pointed out, there was fundraising that was done for a substantial amount of money. I haven't heard anybody even suggest anything like that. So you're going to ask the community for funds and to fund it, maybe via CPC, maybe not, but is there going to be a fundraising component that would reduce the impact to the community? And I'll leave it at that.
Thank you for your questions. There has been no discussion at this point with this commission regarding any fundraising activities by any of the users of the fields. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Hi, Chris Phillips, Phillips Drive. Just a comment on Kyle's presentation. Just so the public is aware, the LexCAN may have inherent bias with some numbers. It is the Lexington Climate Action Network and Zero Waste Collaborative. So they have one goal and one goal only, to promote grass fields. And Lexington actually, in response to this, approved a turf field kind in kind, and they're working on another turf field project right now.
Thank you. Yes.
Thanks. Liz Preston, Stoneview Drive. Just a couple things to clarify or ask regarding the presentation. So the 51-year projection of the grass versus turf, we spoke about the rental a little bit. Someone asked about that. Was that put into consideration with those numbers in comparison?
It was not.
Okay. And from what I heard your reply to the other gentleman who asked, that it goes into kind of like one bucket, not specific for turf, but it goes to the maintenance of all of the rec department fields. Is that correct?
Yeah, so all of the permit fees that Michelle's team collects through the permits go into a revolving fund.
Okay.
The town collects those funds, and we charge against that for things like the crumb rubber we bought, fertilizer, paint, anything related to athletic fields. We do not use those funds for the maintenance work we do on town properties like Town Hall,
Right.
Town Common. It's strictly for athletic field use.
But turf revenue goes to grass and turf maintenance.
It does.
Okay.
Yep.
Sorry, my screen just shut off for a second. The injury consideration comparison, was there, does the additional added cushion, or I forget the terminology that you used,
The
shock pad, thank you. Was that put into consideration with the injury comparison?
I didn't factor it because it's sort of anecdotal from my knowledge level.
Sure.
But what the vendor has told us is the shock pad does give you a better Gmax value,
Okay,
a
so
lower number.
with the statement that you would have, I'm not quoting directly, but more injury per se from turf, that gap between turf and field would lessen with the shock pad.
As I said, I've seen
assume.
studies both ways that turf is more hazardous, grass is more hazardous. I think pick the study to fit your argument, frankly.
Okay. My last question, I'm sorry, at the last rec department meeting, we discussed, or someone brought up if it was possible for you to look at potentially a bubble over the turf, so that way we don't have to worry about snow removal and it could be used 24/7. Was that looked at?
So briefly, I used the that wonderful new tool, ChatGPT.
Yeah.
And kind of to ask some questions, and it came up to a price tag of 14.8 million. So
Okay.
I discounted that without any additional research.
Yeah, reasonable. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Doug Frashone, 8 Star Circle. Just a point of clarification. In your presentation, you noted that grass fields have about a 25-year lifespan. So if I understand correctly, if a grass field was put in at nutting, not only would it be a 2-year potentially down period, but that usage factor that you mentioned, about a 4-time more potential use on the turf field, would have to be transferred to other fields within the community that are reaching, if I'm assuming correctly, way beyond the 25-year usage life of those grass fields. Is that a correct understanding of the math?
I'm not sure I followed 100%.
So if nutting field was became a grass field,
Yes.
the reduction in the amount of usage time would have to be transferred to other fields within the community in order to maintain the amount of use they're currently being asked to do, would be transferred to other grass fields within the community that have long reached their 25-year lifespan. Is that an accurate
I
statement?
can't, okay, so I do understand the question. I can't give you the answer. A number of things could happen. The new nutting field could be overused. Some of the programs could be moved to other fields. Programs could be scaled back.
But it's
What
fair,
the
it's fair to
result is,
say
I
there would
can't
be
say.
an impact to the amount of usage time available on that in the
Yes.
given acreage. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Correct. Green in the, oh, do you mind let the young man? Yeah, come on up. Let's go, Brian. All right.
Brennan Caldwell, 7 Cold Spring Road. So, as you said in your graph, you said that 1 turf field is equal to 2 to 4 grass fields. So I was wondering if you took that into account, that grass may be more expensive if you had 4 grass fields compared to 1 turf field.
That's a very astute observation, and yeah, we did not call that out specifically in the budget analysis, but yes, in order to support the same amount of usage that we currently support with Nutting Road, we would have to have not just the Nutting Road fields replaced with grass, but 2 more full-size soccer fields put in place, which we don't have the space for currently, we don't have the money for, so it is almost a non-starter. So what would end up happening is if we went to grass, we would not be able to support the same amount of playing time that we currently are able to support with Nutting Road, which means we either have to leverage other grass fields that this commission does not have the authority over, or cut the amount of time or opportunity for youth players and adult players to use at Nutting Road if it was grass.
Thank you.
To your question, I guess I would also add, my point of view is that, unfortunately, as far as I know, at town meeting, that point was not emphasized, even may not have been brought up to people to understand that you're not replacing 1 for 1 if you're going to keep the same usage. You're replacing maybe 2 to 1 or 3 to 1, and we don't have the capacity for those other 1 or 2 fields. And had the town meeting known that clearly, the vote may have been different, I don't know, but I don't think, in my opinion, it was emphasized enough.
All right. Yeah, over there.
Mitch Butler, 77 Carlisle Road. Furthermore, on that point, to triple the field, a lot of that usage is actually spring and autumn when a grass field may not be available at all. I found a study, relatively local, Brookline 2020 did a study that said for them, synthetic fields can provide 3 times the usage of natural grass fields, and they have. So that's kind of in your range, up and below that. Other studies I found were very interesting, many of which summarized by this: dozens of government, public health agencies, and peer-reviewed studies that have evaluated exposure risks related to artificial turf and recycled crumb rubber infill in the past decade have found that there is no evidence that the levels of chemicals in these products present a public health concern. So these are studies from the EPA, from Agency for Toxic Substances, National Toxicology Program, European Chemicals Agencies. A lot of these places probably don't have the same staff that they did a month or 2 ago from the layoffs. But I'd be happy to share this with anyone. If you want to give me your email address, I can give you this collection of studies that talk about the the environmental concerns with turf fields. It seems to me that that our children who drink out of plastic water bottles and who hold plastic iPhone cases in their hands, who were raised in plastic car seats in our car, have lived a lot around plastic as we are now with plastic tables and plastic chairs that we're sitting on. It may be a little bit of selective environmentalism to channel this energy into the turf field and the problems that there may be with turf. Just out of curiosity, how many people here today are in support of the turf fields? How many people came to support this this notion?
People outside.
Thank you to the members of the council for giving us this time to express what we feel so strongly about.
Thank you for your comments. Sure, if you can be loud, that's fine. All right.
Michael Thatcher, Misty Lane. A question, kind of a follow-up to Doug's is, what would the effect on youth sports be if Nutting Field was closed for a year or two to switch to grass, given that I don't know that the rest of the fields of town could accommodate the number of teams, practices, and games?
It's very difficult to say. It's a great question because it's not just the youth sports, right? We also have WA makes heavy use of Nutting Road for their sports programs, and we have a number of adult programs that use nutting. We have not done that analysis, but I would say it would be very difficult to support the level of activity that those two fields currently support if we were to use all the fields that the town has. And when I say all the fields, the Park and Rec Commission only has authority over town fields. We do have additional fields, but those are under the authority of the schools, and they use them for school-related programming. So it's not like we have a surfeit of fields running around, and it would really be up to that that group to I think take up the bulk of the load, because we simply just don't have those fields. We have Captain Hamilton, and that's basically it, outside of Jack Walsh, of course.
So it's fair to assume that the number of teams that we would allow would go down, the number of kids that would be able to play would go down, and that's be a big cut.
Sure. Yes, sir.
Hi, Jonathan Ash, 13 Depot Street. To echo on that point, I imagine we would use other fields that are either owned by the school or operated by the school. We might be renting fields from other organizations at a cost. And I think that cost would be significant. I also just want to ask a question to you, Mr. Fox. The sort of, I understood the $2 million-ish sort of cost for a like-kind replacement, whether that be for turf or for grass. But given that we would need 2 or 3 grass fields, was that $2 million or $2.1 million for one grass field, or was that for
That was for
2
an
or 3?
equivalent space, 4.6 acres, which matches the current.
So that's
nutting
okay.
field.
So
It's one for
2.1
one.
million for the existing 4 acres of grass, but we would need 8 or 12 acres of grass
If
to
you
replace
were
it.
to
So it would
try
be
and-
more like a $6 million event if the space was available and we wanted to have that much grass.
That's correct.
Correct.
Thank you.
All right, just, thank you. Do you mind if I just take, I have some questions online, so just for the fairness of the folks that are, all right, so Sue Thomas asks, does this slide include disposal costs of turf field, the 50-year analysis?
Yes.
Yes, it does. Donna Deoni says, I think you said that a negative of turf field. Hey, folks, if you're leaving, I just want you to be aware. Does everybody understand what sort of might be happening next? Because it's phenomenal that everybody is here this evening. But this is only one step, and I think I talked a little bit about it when I answered Diane's question along the way to getting this done. So, I'm not forcing you to stay. If you have to go, I get it. But I just want to let everybody here know that the outcome tonight will hopefully be the commission will decide they've had enough information to take a vote. And that vote, I don't know what they're going to vote. I don't know. But let's just say they decide to move this forward. It will go on to the Capital Planning Committee, like I mentioned earlier. Hopefully it will pass the Capital Planning Committee's review. And then, and this is most important, it will go on to special town meeting. Special town meeting takes place in October on a Monday. if you are interested in this project, what it seems like you all are, and I congratulate you on taking the time out of your very busy schedules. I get it, everybody here. I've seen lots of kids and parents who probably have kids in sports. Tremendous on your part to come, but you must come to town meeting. This is just one stop, guys. Okay, so just want to make sure everybody knows that. Let your fans and family members know, because we want to have as many people there to make their voices heard, either in support or in opposition of this project. All right, with that, I'm sorry. You guys are free to go. So, all right, thank you for coming. So I think you said that a negative of turf was expensive disposal, but I'm not sure I saw it in the financial analysis after 15 years. Was it included? We answered that question. And then while we're discussing, Sue says, while we are discussing not being able to use grass in some sorts of weather, I think the field users are going to find that turf fields are increasingly unusable during heat. We hit the 80s last week. We will be hitting 90s routinely before the spring season is over and at the start of the fall season. Give the life of either field, we need to consider these new constraints in the analysis and the number of non-playable days on turf due to heat. Okay, we also have a hand up from Pete Ditmars. Could you promote him so we could hear him speak, please, Mike? Can you have a second?
Go ahead. Stop sharing if you want to see him.
Pete, can you hear us? You're on mute currently. There you are. Do you have a question?
I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
You're going to have to speak up.
Hi, can you hear me now?
A little bit, yep.
A little bit. Okay, sorry. Yeah, I think some of my questions, I sent them in. I was waiting for the chat to open up. I think it was the Q&A I should have been typing into all along.
Oh, thank you, Michelle.
Anyways, I have a question. Do we have statistics on how many hours per week we are using the nutting fields presently?
I don't have that with me.
We don't have that with you right now, Pete. I'll tell you during the main seasons, so spring and fall, they're typically in use from when WA gets out of school until there's no longer light. And that's on the weekdays, and on the weekends, they're usually used from 8 a.m. all the way till 5 p.m. on Saturday and Sundays for games.
Okay. Yeah, because I know a lot of the comparison between, how many turf fields or how many grass fields you need for a turf field replacement, it centers around that hours per use. So if we know what our hours per use are, then we can maybe have a more realistic comparison of them. On the question of the $110,000 per year additional cost for grass, I had a question. I see that it includes a full $65K for an additional senior laborer. How many labor hours per week are we projecting just for the nutting field maintenance?
So I didn't get to that level of detail. The analysis I took was kind of twofold. Our crews are at capacity now. We currently do not meet the level of demand that our users expect of us. And so to add any amount extra, and 4.6 acres of grass field would be quite a bit extra, automatically pushes us over the top where we would need an additional support. Taking that a step further, although I didn't include it in the financial analysis, for the cost of the field itself, the 2 to 4 times. If we did expand to say 2, 3, or 4 times the grass space, that additional employee would be able to help out with that additional grass space. So hour per hour, I didn't do that level of analysis, but you can see my.
I get the concept. I wondered. I figured you're probably close to capacity, and that's why you needed just an extra person. It's an extra person. You pay for them.
Correct.
I know that. Yeah, and I was thinking also of like your Jack Walsh and the field behind Robinson, and people are complaining, oh, you don't have enough. Maybe it would be a beneficial thing from that perspective of turf management across the whole town would benefit from an additional person. It's just one aspect to take into mind.
You're fading on us, Pete.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So the that's my watch. Okay. You did mention one of the cons was also sort of the fumes and whatnot. just a thing to throw out there. A lot of the electric mowers now, they're getting to the contractor grade. I didn't know if the town in general, during their sort of capital equipment management, has thought about perhaps transitioning to an electric mower fleet. They have them now that can run for 8 hours. They're big, 5 foot wide things. So,
Pete, sorry, Pete, on the interest of time, we are past, let's just keep it on, I don't think that's within the
yeah, I think you're right.
discussion.
I think you're right.
Sorry.
So the one last thing that I would say is that, I know people were mentioning the LexCam, and there is another body out there, the Toxic Use Reduction Institute, right here in UMass Lowell. They have a couple of case studies out there about towns that are doing management and did make comparisons between turf and grass. They did end up going grass. So there are examples out there. We've got Marblehead and Springfield as two towns that have sort of made this decision themselves, and they did end up choosing grass. I'm not sure it's the right choice for Westford at this point, but there are other communities that are picking grass over turf. So, thank you.
Thanks, Pete. And I did note that you had a question regarding the select board's policy on IPM. Have we considered an organic approach for any of our fields? I would say.
So we do use organic whenever we can.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you. Okay, yes, you in the back. Thank you for your patience. Come on, if you can make your way up, or that's all right. Go ahead. You can.
So, Cold Spring Road. So, was any survey done to find out how many of the neighboring towns has grass field versus turf field? The reason for asking that is because we want our players to have a fair chance of winning.
Was the question? I didn't quite. Did a survey?
So,
did you-
Yeah, the question was, if I heard you correctly, have we done a comparison of Westford versus other towns and how many grass fields versus turf fields Westford has versus other towns? No?
So,
Oh.
how many neighboring towns where our players go out and play has turf fields or grass fields? Because if our players practice and train on turf field, and if they go out and play on grass fields, it's completely a different experience. So we want to provide them fair chance of winning.
Got it. We did not do a formal analysis of that. I will say, as a former Westford Youth Soccer Association coach, when I've been coaching for 3 years, most of the communities that we play against have turf fields. So I completely agree with you, and I know from my past coaching, I would have kids practice on grass and on turf for that very situation. So thank you for raising that point. All right, we are kind of getting past we're getting a little bit past our budgeted time. So if you have any other questions, let's just be very quick. You've already spoken, so could you mind? Well, I think it would be fair if we let other people who haven't spoken.
That's what I want to, sorry, Chris.
Okay.
I just want to ask, there's a lot of people here who support the fields, which I think is great, and maybe you're going to come on. I'd love to hear from the people who currently play on them and coach them and find out why they enjoy the turf so much.
We can do that. So the young gentleman in the back there, why don't you guys come up, both of you at the same time, if you don't mind.
We have one more.
Here's a girl.
Okay,
young
yep,
lady
we'll
over
have
here.
her. Do you want to join them? You can come in too if you want. Go ahead, guys.
Did you take into consideration like the 100?
Gotta throw the tea here.
Oh yeah.
If you could just identify yourself, name,
I'm
address, please.
Owen Millett, and I live on 97 Groton Road.
Thank you, sir.
Did you ever consider the fact of the $125,000 they'd lose for each year they would switch it to grass?
Can I just add, we actually did vote to move forward with the turf fields to go to town meetings, so we're not in opposition of it. The reason we're talking tonight is because there was a discussion at town meeting where folks wanted more information about the pros and cons. But this is the second time we're gonna be voting on this. The first time we did vote to move forward with the turf field, so we're not on any real side of the argument. We're just here to provide more information.
So to your question, the 125 number, what is that you're referring to?
Like they pay to use the turf, and I was just wondering, would they still pay to use the turf in the 2 years that we'd be switching it to grass?
No. Well, so the way that the field fees are assessed, so we currently assess a flat fee per year to the youth sports groups, and that's for both the usage of grass and turf fields. So there might be a modification of that fee amount if there weren't as many fields for the teams to use. We would certainly meet with the team's leadership, the youth sports group's leaderships, and negotiate potentially a reduction in the amount that we would charge them for a field permit fee for those years that nutting would be offline.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for your question.
I'm Jack Troy from 10 Orion Way, and I was just curious on like how much the difference in like timing would be, like between the like fields, and
If
how
we
much
were
like
to switch it from to replace the turf versus to switch it to grass.
like after we like switch it, like how much more time it would cost like to be difference between like all the other like different sports teams trying to play, and like the timing in between each.
Forced usage, what would the timing differential be? But to go back to my question, if you're reducing the amount of playing opportunities, what would be the forced time difference for teams? In other words, 5 minutes between practices in order for it to get the usage out of the field. So that's sort of what this question is. Like, what is that differential going to be between turnover team to team in order to keep the same amount of usage that you've got today?
Well, we currently run, Jack Walsh and nutting pretty much back to back, right? Anybody who's been a member of those sports groups and have been on those fields, you have teams queuing up on the sidelines waiting to get on to the turf or onto their section of the grass. And in many cases, these teams aren't even enjoying an entire field. They're getting, say, a third of a field for their practice time because these fields are so oversubscribed. So if we were to move to grass, that situation would get worse because we can't support the same amount of usage.
Okay, thank you,
sir.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Right ahead.
Hi, I'm Ava Kinney, and I live at 313 Pine Hill Road. And I was just wondering what the current conditions of the grass field like we have after the weather we've been having.
I would defer to the players. I mean, obviously the grass fields have been closed a number of days this year. Seems to rain every weekend, unfortunately, which has impacted when we open them or close them. That said, we're protective of the fields, and part of the reason we didn't open them till April 15th was to make sure that when the players did get on the fields, they were going to survive. So I would say the fields are in good condition at this point.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your question. Okay, a couple more questions from remote folks. It says, Jakub is asking, are towns considered today more attractive to live in whether the playing fields are grass or turf? I don't know if we can.
That's beyond the purview of.
Yeah, we can answer that, but thank you for the question. Tim Swanson, should we multiply by 2 the usability time per acre for turf over grass? So the net would be more like 6 to 8 times the usage opportunity for turf per acre, 20 hours for grass versus 60 to 80 hours for turf. I think we've addressed that. Thank you for the question. And we have one from Sean Troy. Goose droppings are common carriers of disease, E. coli, and other dangerous to human compounds. Turf, since geese don't like it, can reduce this. Have you looked at these situations? Kyle, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I spoke to that during the presentation.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we answered those questions. Okay, with that in mind, unless there's any other further comments? Yes?
Hi, Craig Burgess, Fairview Drive. It seems to me like there is strong support in the town for the turf field. 65% I would consider strong support. We unfortunately didn't get to that 2/3 threshold. But having a meeting for that type of vote on a Saturday morning for youth families is the equivalent of holding a meeting and a vote in the middle of the night. We just can't get there. And I know anecdotally there are a lot of people who would have gone and voted, but they had conflicts. So I'm just asking for your help to get it to a meeting where the youth families can participate.
Thank you very much for that. Yes, as I mentioned earlier, it's my personal hope, and I'm not speaking for the commission, is that we continue to move this conversation forward in the hopes of bringing it to special town meeting, which will be in October, which is held on a Monday night at 7 p.m. So it is a little easier for folks to get to who are busy weekends. So that would be potentially the next step. With that in mind, I'm going to turn it over to the commission. Commissioners, do you have any questions at this point? All our DPW director? No? Yes?
I have a question about the snow removal on the artificial turf. Was that just done in an emergency fashion to conduct the GMAX
So
testing?
the scope of the removal we did this year, because of the late snowfalls we had, the scope we did, which was the entire field surface for both fields, was to allow for the maintenance of the fields. The contractor had a window to get our work done before he got busy with other previously scheduled commitments. Normally, the snow removal we've done is in limited areas, particularly in that back far corner on Field 2, where it gets a lot more shade. So typically, we do smaller scale snow removal simply to quicken the process. This year was unusual because of the nature of needing to get the repairs done to facilitate the playability. But normally, we would not do the wide scale removal unless it was something the programs demanded and you folks told us to.
How exactly is the snow removal done?
So typically, again, we would do it with a snow thrower. We'd leave the machine up a fair bit above the turf and just blow off the snow. This year, because we wanted to get the surface ready for the contractor, we were a little more aggressive with loaders and did scrape more of the surface than we normally would.
I'm generally in favor of this in-kind replacement. I just would hope there could be some consideration to maybe not throwing some of that material over the fence and kind of down over that retaining wall.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Okay, any other questions from commissioners? Yeah, Lisa.
I just want to say thank you all for coming out tonight, because I know, time is, very valuable, and to be here on a Monday night is a lot. So we appreciate you guys coming. And I just kind of soak things up like a sponge, and I think what I'm gathering from your feedback as town members as well as the commissioners' points of view is we want to keep the users of the fields active and safe. We want to keep the fields in use and running so programs can run, but we want to avoid injuries and potential contamination to users based on the materials that are used. So after all this, there was a slide, I believe, Kyle, that talked about organic options. I think there's a lot to be said about making sure that we use materials that are not harmful in the future. Like, have there been any longevity studies on the materials that have been used, like the rubber or the little pellets? I looked at EnviroFill. It is a little pricier, but there's been studies that show that it's a a good alternative to using the rubber, which could contain PFAS materials. So I know a town member mentioned a concern about that, so we want to make sure we're sensitive to that. But I also hear everything that you guys have said. So we want to keep the programs running, keep everybody safe. We just want to make sure we're doing it the right way. So that's all I want to say. I think we can be in agreement with that. So that's kind of what I had to say about that.
Thank you.
Yep.
And just to close out on that, we did hear from some concerns like that. Our original budget was $1.5 million. The commission recommended an additional $500,000 so that we could look at more environmentally sustainable or safe, if you will, infill materials. So that was taken into account and is part of our current budget process, or budget proposal, I should say. All right. So, commissioners, any other questions, comments? Next steps.
Motion?
A motion would be nice, yes.
I'll make a motion to approve this this plan to go with the in-kind replacement and leave it to the town special town meeting vote in October.
So you motion to move forward with the replacement of the fields with artificial turf? Correct. Subject to the budget that we previously recommended?
Yes.
I'll second the motion.
I second. All right, we have a motion on the table. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Just because we're remote, I'm just going to roll call it. Well, actually, no, we're not remote. We're here, so we're good. All right. All right. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. And it looks like the motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much this evening for all the folks that came. And we look forward to seeing you October. Please stay aware of what's going on October, special town meeting Monday night. Thank you so much. It should be very early on the agenda if it does make it that far. Thank you, Kyle.
Good job.
All right, so
They seem happy.
yeah, I need is our next person.
How did he not join the chat?
So far, I haven't seen him. He sent me an email saying we're still shooting for 7:10, 7:15. I just replied to him.
I might have his number.
I sent him my number.
No, so the funding that they approved prior to town meeting was 3 levels. Crumb rubber, which is what we use now, EPDM rubber, which is a better quality of rubber, or the EnviroFill, which Alicia was just talking about,
The previous
which
minutes?
is a coating sand.
Do one more thing,
sit-
but
we can do the
as
minutes?
long as we can be conscious of the materials that we use. because
No,
I know that
unfortunately, it's the turf that the CPA
complain
is,
about
yeah.
contracting certain
Good thought,
illnesses
though.
based on
Thank you so much. Thank you.
turf
Thank you so much.
materials. So I think if we have the budget for it.
We
and
still have a
the
meeting
money
going on.
I'm happy to take questions by email afterwards. My email is on the town website. If you go to the Park and Rec Commission's webpage, you can get my email there. It's cbarrett@westfordma.gov. All right, no, thank you. Hello?
I thought they might want to take it up as like.
Happy to.
I mean, it's ironic because usually
happy
they're
to.
into everything.
Good, thank you.
Fast gets dropped and it's like, drop everything.
Stay and listen to our review of the minutes.
That's a good point.
Thank you.
I mean,
I do have
their
those
input be valued, like if we're at this stage, like, you know what I mean?
Not by them, probably.
Yeah, we're gonna do that.
Not by the people who are.
Okay, guys, we're still waiting for our 7:15 item, but I think we're far enough along. We're gonna move to our 7:30 agenda item, which is a review of the American Legion Equipment Building refurbishment request. We sent a proposal out to you. This is coming to us from Westford Youth Softball and Baseball Association. They have worked with a contractor who is willing to do a fair amount of renovation of the equipment facility that is at the American Legion Fields or Granite Fields. If you enter the complex, go past the basketball courts, it's the building on your left. It would be no cost to the town. This would be, if we endorse it, it would go then to the select board for approval. So I'll take any questions. The proposal has gone to our DPW director. And I also think it would have to be approved by the building commissioner, is that correct? Yep.
You'd have to meet their requirements.
Their requirements.
Yep.
So, yep.
I
Mike,
just
you
want
have
to
a question?
clarify, I thought the request had that the donators would be able to put a banner or something up recognizing their input or their donation.
That is absolutely right. Thank you for bringing that up, Mike. That is correct. In lieu of receiving remuneration, they were asking to put banners up, yes.
Okay.
Which the Westford Youth Softball and Baseball Association are in favor of doing.
Okay, but that's the only request that, I mean, that's approving them to do it, there's no funding.
No funding, it's just,
And no work, Kyle, you would not have to use any people to do this work?
No.
Okay.
I think it would be appropriate if the commission thought to make a recommendation to the select board. That may help them in their decision-making process.
Okay.
So, a motion, Dan, or a
I'm
question?
curious,
Okay.
this building, is it gonna have the same use?
No, we're
Or are they trying to make it like a food thing?
No, it'd be the same use and.
Storage and.
And one
better
thing I would
bathrooms?
add, we went through quite a bit of work the last year plus on the Graniteville,
Chris Rosenberg, he's been watching the whole meeting.
on the Graniteville upgrade project, and this building was not included in that. So,
Okay.
to me, this is a
That's him right there.
pretty great
it's awesome.
opportunity for the town.
Was there
All right.
a bathroom in that building?
There
There
is.
are bathrooms in the
And
building.
that's gonna be improved or still be usable?
They said they were going to improve them, in the proposal. We don't do anything with this building. parks maintenance wise.
Right.
We view it as a program building.
Okay. Any other questions?
I make a motion to approve the request to have the renovation done by these vendors and allow the banners to be appropriately hung.
I'll second it.
I'm sorry, who was second?
I'll second
Oh,
it.
thanks, Devin. All right. Okay.
Do we have enough votes if because I didn't hear the conversation on that, so if I recuse
You can
myself?
recuse yourself. You're
got
fine. If you
enough
so
for-
choose.
There's a
Okay.
quorum, so even if you
All right,
did
good,
abstain.
good, okay.
Yep.
still
Thank you for
works.
that, though. I mean, we're happy to catch you up.
No, I think with
you're good? Okay.
people's time.
Okay. Okay, so we have a motion. Any discussion on the motion? All right, seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of Mike's motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any in abstention?
Aye.
One, and none not abstention. Did I do it wrong?
No.
Abstention? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're
501.
501. Yes, thank you. Okay, we're gonna swing back to our 7:15 agenda item, which is, we're very behind.
Behind, we're on regular schedule.
Yeah, this is normal.
This is come on, guys, give me a break. See, this is what's confusing me is because, oh, he's signed in as me, that's why. All right. Chris, can you hear us?
Yes, Chris, thank you. I guess the link that I clicked on just made me you. So living a day in the life here. So thank you for welcoming me. And I guess everyone left. I guess I'm not the main event here. But that was a very spirited conversation. So you guys got some cool things going on. I will keep this extremely brief. And happy to come back to answer any questions or anything like that moving forward. I've been working with Matt over the last year now to bring self-service kayak stations to the state, and in this case, specifically Westford. Can you guys see my screen by chance?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So this is what we do. We make your waterway, we make your park system more accessible by providing self-service recreational opportunities, right? And so, again, we'll keep this extremely high level. We started off 7 years ago. The founder of our company created the technology that provides and allows for self-service equipment rental. So you guys have seemingly heard of bird scooters, segways. This is our technology that we've licensed out to other companies, right? And so we've been doing bike share, bike rentals for 7 years. Over that time, we've heard from folks in similar seats to you. How do we make our lake, our river, more accessible? And so we developed a self-service kayak station. Fast forward, and you go over to the right side of the screen here. We work with parks to make recreational equipment accessible, right? And so, we constantly see ping pong courts or cornhole courts in parks. The bottom line is cities all over the country are paying for these things, and nobody is playing them, right? Let's not sugarcoat it, rhetorical, but even if everyone who left the room is back in the room, I'm fairly certain not one person had a ping pong paddle in their pocket or bean bags when they go into a park. And as a result, nobody really interacts with your existing amenities. The same goes with items like disc golf and basketball and volleyball and so on and so forth. So I will stay focused here, as I know this is meant to discuss kayaks, but just wanted to paint the picture here, right? We are not just a kayak company, right? We are in over 300, if you factor in bike locations, 300 locations in the country. Many of the people who were just in the room have probably interacted with Rent Fund. We are in Maynard, Massachusetts. You guys are double plus the population of Maynard. I'm going to try to share my screen here again. I don't know, the Zoom is a little weird here. Okay. Maynard, and again, you guys are the experts. I live, somewhat near you, over in kind of right over the border from Great Barrington. So I don't know all the local rivalries or politics, but I know that Maynard has half the population as you guys.
and services your community as it relates to providing people a chance to get out on the water. Maynard, in their first year working with us, put a self-service kayak rental station in town. They did 478 rentals. If you do 300 a year over 5 years, you recoup your initial investment, all while offering this amenity to your community. 2023, they did 478. 2024, they did 724. All right, so that's a 52% increase in their first 2 years. They are one of our top performers in the country, especially for a town of their size. So I guess if you go pound for pound, they're probably the strongest partner in the country when you factor in population. Yeah, so again, I'll just share this picture real quick. Again, we are not just kayak people. We go into towns and cities, partner, build courts, and allow for people to rent the equipment needed to play said amenities. You do not need us to build a court. We can activate your current amenity with the rental kiosk. And now I will get back to a fully focused presentation here on why you brought me in, which is the kayaks. So just wanted to paint that picture for us here. All right. Never easy sharing between screens. Okay, cool. So the way we partner is by, again, activating your waterway. We do all the work.
You're still
you guys
on the
pay
Chris, you're still on the cornhole picture.
Cornhole picture, okay.
There you go.
There it is. Yep. Awesome. So bottom line is we do the work on this. This is not here. I'm not here to scare the crap out of the parks team. You guys are not picking up your 1 million and third to-do list item this summer. This is something that we as the operators handle and do all the work on. So we work together to find a spot that works best for you guys, and we install something like you see on the right side of my screen here. We handle everything. So after we follow your approval process, everything goes how you want it to go. I answer questions. You beat me up by asking questions. We get you answers. At the end of the day, as soon as an agreement is signed, we take over. We handle the delivery and installation. We handle equipment replacement. As equipment naturally wears and tears, we resupply you with brand new equipment. No fee to the city. We also handle all of the maintenance. So we bring a part-time job to the community. We hire a part-time maintenance technician. They live within 30 minutes of town. Could be somebody on staff, an intern, a cousin, a neighbor. We interview people, we train them, and then we hire them. They meet our head of install on site, put together your station and build it on site, meet the team, and we go from there. This person is on call. They handle any issue that may arise within 48 hours. They also come twice a month to service the station. They inspect all the equipment, they clean everything. When people go end their rental, they need to, through the app, and I'll explain how that works in a quick second, they need to submit a photo of all the equipment back inside the locker. Included in that locker is a two-seat kayak, a single kayak, and or a stand-up paddleboard. You guys get to choose the variation. We can always swap out based on word of mouth or data what your community needs and wants. They need to submit a photo to end the rental. The photo shows all the equipment back inside the locker. The technology reads that, ends the rental, and charges the renter for the time that they use the equipment for. If, let's say, Chris loses his life vest out on the lake, that return will end. Chris will be, as the user, charged for that missing life vest. And then this top right locker, let's say, will be moved to out of service. We don't want the next person, obviously, coming to rent without a life vest. The technology will then, again, lock that locker and notify and dispatch that full service maintenance technician immediately. They have 48 hours to replenish your locker with brand new replacement equipment. We keep spare equipment in market so that we can turn this around as quickly as possible. The bottom line, guys, I'm an entrepreneur. I've worked in other fields. Vendors stink. I think we can all be self-aware. Most vendors we all have trouble with. Whether it's someone coming to fix something in your house or in recreation. Cities have time and time again let have been left holding the bag. What we've done at Rent Fund and why I took this job and continue to work here is kind of the mission that we're on. By flipping the script and sharing a strong percentage of the revenue that comes in on these, we have considerable skin in the game. This isn't, hey, drop off a kayak locker, Westford gets it, they're excited, and now all of a sudden they can't reach Rent Fund anymore because Rent Fund has transitioned and moved on to something else. That's the current system, and no vendor does that on purpose. It's just how their company is built. What we do is we flip the script. I'm the salesperson, but I'm also your account manager. I get CC'd whenever a piece of equipment gets broken. Just to cut this short, the most extreme point on the scale is Rent Fund is losing revenue when you guys are out of equipment. And so my CEO, me, my head of operations, again, get CC'd on that note. The whole goal here is to keep this at 100% health as frequently as possible, because we're all letting down the community if so. So this is something that we own, and you're not gonna be looking, where the heck is Chris when we have a question type of thing. So I'm happy to answer any questions on that, but I will cover the basics real quick. We also do the local marketing. We create a website for your program. If anyone goes to rent.fund and click on Maynard or any of our other 300 partners, and you see the micro website that we create for you guys. Bottom line is you guys would link out to this from your government website, and your community would know exactly how this works before ever stepping foot in the park. From pricing, GPS coordinates, a Google map, how to find the station, to a video on how to rent and return. We have an FAQs section. Nobody is meant to be calling Chris's office, the parks department, and asking questions. Our signage directs people to contact us for any reason, right? We can open and lock this locker from afar. Again, help people with billing issues, not being able to access the app, whatever it is. Again, that customer service is 20 hours a day, 7 days a week. We do it all. Most importantly, potentially, we handle the liability insurance on this. So you guys are added as additionally insured, covering you as it relates to this program. The city is entirely indemnified, the town is indemnified. If we were to get sued, and we haven't been sued once in 7 years, but if we were, we know how the world works, you guys would probably get dragged into that lawsuit. We would cover the town's legal fees. Again, you guys would be indemnified. We work with towns as small as 800. We are on the truck going right now. We are installing in Myrtle Beach, Virginia Beach, 36 units there, and in the Inner Harbor in Baltimore. So a wide range, all to say that this insurance plan fits just about basically all 300 of those towns use this exact same insurance plan. Happy to answer any questions and take this where you guys want. Just for the sake of time, just wanted to give the highest level of overviews.
All right, Chris, thank you so much, and appreciate your time this evening. And again, apologize for getting to you late in the evening. So this was a great presentation. We'll take questions from the commission at this point. Any questions? Just raise your hand, please. Oh, we got Mike. Go ahead.
Chris, two things. Great presentation, by the way. Two questions. The number of kayaks available, that would dependent on what the agreement is with the town in terms of what our needs might be?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do things in numbers of 4, right? So a 4 kayak station is kind of, you're dipping the toe type of, offering. Listen, you're not going to hear me say 12 if you don't need to. We want to fit your community. The issue that I have with the 4 is if somebody loses a life vest, you're out 25% of your fleet for 2 days, right? I typically promote the 8-unit station. 8-unit, you're never really going to have an issue with inventory. If you have all 8 kayaks out at one time, that's a decent problem to have. And at the 8-unit mark, you can mix and match. You could have 4 single kayaks, 2 tandem kayaks, and 2 stand-up paddleboards. All of a sudden, your office is getting hit with, we're always running out of those stand-up paddleboards. We can always swap out. You don't pay. You would pay for expedited shipping if you wanted to swap out. Again, the value here is that we're making money when you guys make money. So we charge the least we could possibly charge. Full disclosure here, we make $2,800 on an install.
So, thank you.
Where we make our money is on the rental revenue.
What is the typical cost of the rental? Is it per hour, and how much per hour?
Yep.
And what is the cost per hour?
Exactly. So we do 2-hour pricing. We do $25 for the first 2 hours. Hours 3 through 4, your total would be $40.
Okay.
We do also have a membership program, and so with some locations near you, the benefit of the membership program is to make this super affordable. So what that looks like is a member signs up. They can sign up at the station itself or online. It's $99 a year, and that entitles the user to all you can play, or in this case, all you can paddle for an entire year. So if Chris goes kayaking and he introduces Mike to this, Mike's never even seen this station before. Chris, every time he goes to rent as a member, gets 2 kayaks at a time. We want this to be social. We want this to basically help people get outside again, right? I'm not going to go into the whole spiel. I coach youth baseball. My kids are arguing at 10 a.m. on a summer Saturday, whether it's grass or turf fields. Who's playing who in Xbox baseball at 11 o'clock in the summer, right? What's going on? Let's help people. Let's make park amenities modern so that kids, adults, an open spot of grass isn't, and some imagination isn't enough anymore. And so, so again, $99 a year, all you can paddle. And that goes for not only your station, but any of our station across the country. So that entitles people to drive up to Maynard, drive down to Dedham, if that's how you pronounce it. Apologies if not. Plymouth, Connecticut. I know these are, maybe an hour or 2 away. But if you find yourself in the Inner Harbor, going to, as much as this pains me to say as a Yankees fan, go to see the Red Sox pound on the Baltimore Orioles, you're probably staying in the Inner Harbor. You guys get to, your members would get to borrow a kayak for no added cost. That includes our disc golf, our basketball, wherever we have a station, that member would be able to use unlimited amount of times throughout the year. Each time a member uses a piece of equipment, $5 to $8 gets kicked back to the town.
Is there an age limit for making?
There is. For the kayaks, it is 18 plus. So you are signing a waiver as part of the rental. The waiver releases the town from any liability. You're clicking a box that you were 18 plus. It's an insurance thing. We tried to do this for 13 plus. A $35,000 station turned into $70,000. Insurance is, as many of you know, is not trying to. They like 18 plus. So again, that's what insurance covers you on. As a parent, of course, you can allow your kid to go out on the kayak when you rent for them. I'm not saying that, of course, but that can happen. The insurance is covering the user when they're 18 plus.
See, Chris, you said each rental gives the town between $5 and $8 revenue?
That is for the membership. If we are working together, right, and Mike goes out for a rental and he pays $25 for the 2-hour rental and he returns it at the 2-hour mark, he pays $25. In that case, the city would receive 30% of the revenue. So 30% of the revenue on the standard rental, a smaller portion on the membership. So they pay $99 and you get a small cut every time they use, even if they use. So if they went to use in Baltimore, you would get like $3. If they use your station, you get like $6 or $7 type of thing. Hopefully that makes sense.
With the tandem kayak rental, does that allow for a parent to take their kid out, or is it all users have to be over 18?
Same question.
Yes, I do. Last thing I want to do is tote the insurance person line. Yes, I have to say you have to be 18 years old to rent. Now, each parent can choose to disregard that and bring a minor on with them. If the worst were to happen, the insurance doesn't cover someone who's less than 18 years old, right? You're clicking a box saying that you're 18 years old. Again, I don't want to sugarcoat it. more times than not, nothing happens and nothing, it's all good, for lack of the best term. But again, highlighting the insurance line is you are covered if you're 18 plus. And that's, the bird scooters, virtually anything recreational is 18 plus for insurance purposes that we're aware of.
So, Chris, for a typical installation like you're showing on the screen here, what does that run the municipality?
Sorry, the pricing?
Sorry, the question I had was for the typical, for an installation like you have shown on your screen, what is that, what's the cost to the town to have that set up and installed?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's discuss. So this is all just showing the tutorial screen, right? When you show up to the station, you download the Rent Fund app, you add your credit card for secure payment, you sign that liability waiver, you watch a safety tutorial, as documented here. Before the app screen turns to a camera screen, that's where you scan the QR code and take out the equipment. Again, you use it for as long or short as you'd like. You pay for the time that you use it for. You're not on any type of set clock for return. For pricing, this is what the pricing looks like. It's a little unique, but pretty straightforward. We'll stay with that 8-unit example. This price here is a one-time fee. Just to be, corny. If we are in partnership for 100 years, you paid us one time $35,000. Our agreements run on a 5-year term. We are committed to you for those 5 years. We're not leaving. We're changing service levels, no matter what. At the end of those 5 years, there is no cost to renew. Virtually, we need a location license. We need your permission to continue to operate this on your land. You want to renew? We just keep doing what we're doing. Again, you would never pay us again to operate this station. This 8-unit and the 12-unit can be split up. So a 12-unit can be one single 12-unit in a spot. It could be an 8 in one location, a 4 in another. It could be 3 4s scattered around town. Same with the 8-unit. So again, one-time fee of $35,000. We share 30% of the rental revenue. It's a 5-year term. And at the end of those 5 years, there's no cost to renew. We handle all of the logistics and supply all the equipment. Any questions on that? Happy to clarify anything.
So, having been in a similar situation, if we went forward and this would have to get approved and funded through various mechanisms in town, and we probably wouldn't be talking about an install until spring of 2026. Is there a way to lock in these prices? Because the approval to do so would be tied to the quoted prices, and if those change between now and the installation, it would make it difficult to move forward.
Absolutely. So, listen, prices will go up, right? Prices went up $6,000 last year. We doubled in size, right? In terms of sheer number of partners, rental revenue. We launched in Virginia Beach. They started off with 24 kayaks. Again, we're bringing another 36 just 3 months after they launched, right? And so the short answer is yes, we could lock in this pricing. We would need a contract to do so. How we would structure that is, listen, we can be very nimble, I guess, on this. We would lock in pricing for, let's say, the 35, and I would structure the payment terms in which you would not pay until the station is installed. So that would be something along the lines of, okay, we sign a contract in May or possibly June at the $35,000 rate, and you make 0 payments until we eventually install. Listen, if you guys are worried because it's a whole year out, I can make it dependent on board and funding approval, where if for some reason this falls through, I know it's not, listen, it's government you guys pay when you buy something. If something falls through and you need the 35 for something else, it's all good. you don't owe any money, right? So we can help you out here by having a signed contract, and again, not making anything due until it's installed, as well as give you that clause where if you don't get, again, quote unquote, board approval, or we can choose a different term, if you don't actually get that, you have an out in the contract where you pay $0. You're tied to us 0%.
Chris, I have two other questions. One, in Massachusetts, are you aware of any of the communities using CPC money for that, or is that something you're not aware of? If you know what the CPC is.
Haven't encountered that. Haven't encountered CPC money. ARPA funds, TIF have been two other kind of ways people have paid for this. Grants. There are some very cool nonprofits in the state doing cool things to activate and make getting out on rivers and lakes a lot more accessible. Stuff like that. Yeah, so not CPC specifically.
Okay. My other question was, you said 2 hours is $25. If someone comes back in 2 hours and 20 minutes, do they pay the entire 3 hour $40 price, or is it prorated for that 20 minutes?
Yep. They would then pay $40. Between you and me, we are in the business of building loyal members, right? We want the grand picture here, and we have several park systems that do this. They have bikes, they have kayaks, they have cornhole boards and ping pong tables, and you have the whole park system operating via rent fund. We want to build a membership base. If anybody, literally anybody, responds via customer service, why did I get charged 3 hours? I only went for. We're refunding them every single time. We're not stickler. We're not trying to make an extra $6.22 or $15. We want that person to come back, have a great time, and come back and bring friends with them. So, you would pay either 25 or 40. But again, if anyone chats our customer support, we're going to refund them every time that extra money that they were charged.
Question for you. Do you know the percentage of users who rent like on a one-time basis versus the number of members that you have?
Yeah, it's much more one time, right? The membership is kind of the grand goal here. I would say it's probably 95 a la carte rental. Where the members, we launched the membership this year, right? So, and we're in May, right? So I with the weather, not even sure a lot of the Northeast locations are actually turned on right now and active because of the weather, right? So
that was the second question.
In its infancy stages here. Yep. The bottom line is the membership tends to work for the enthused local who's now using this 5, 6, 7 times and starts to do the obvious math, right? Put yourself in the situation of, well, wait a second, should I just buy my own kayak, right? And this $99 fee, instead of you losing that person, that $5 to $8 per rental is a lot more than zero, because that person is going to continue to rent from your site. You're going to get people from Maynard coming into Westford to try your station. We see the data shows that the more stations are not competition, they just fuel and increase kayaking in the area. Again, I eat lunch, I play golf, I do a few other things, but those two specifically, you're not always trying to do the same thing every day. Pick your favorite hobby, right? One day you're gonna go sit in the lake and not paddle and listen to music with friends. Other time you're gonna go down the creek on an exercise paddle type of thing, right? And so again, you're gonna see a lot of influx from folks in Maynard. They've proven that this is something that is that they love. Again, 774 rentals is no joke. They kayak. They're going to come try your kayaking before a lot of your locals even realize that you guys have put this in town.
Right, so Chris, can you tell us what is the season for Maynard so far? When does it open and close?
Yeah, Maynard has historically over the last 2 years, started in May. I'm gonna save you all from trying to try to share all those screens again. I'm looking at it myself to spare you. The first year in 2023, they launched in July and had 478 rentals. That's when we installed them. In 2024, they opened their station in May and did 12 rentals. In June, they did 208. In July, they did 206. August 177, September 144, October 49.
Okay, so season's May through October, essentially.
Yeah. I have a question. So Maynard, it's kind of apples and oranges. So there's not a lot of parking at Ice House Landing, and you can't swim there. So the amount of people who show up there for recreation is far lower than what we typically would get at Forge. Do you have any communities that have a pond or a lake approximately a mile across that's that has ample parking, that's already an existing recreation spot as an apples to apples comparison? Because I think Maynard's great, and it's great they're doing so well, but it's far less. The only benefit they have that we don't have is that it's on the Assabet Rail Trail, so they get bicycle traffic. But I don't think that's a significant draw compared to what we typically get.
Yeah, well, I guess what I'm trying to do is answer your very question by flipping it, by saying, like, you guys are, I've looked at the parks, you guys are in a way better position to succeed using this program than Maynard, and Maynard is one of our best performing partners, right? So Maynard has, again, you said it, Matt, no parking or very limited parking. You know, I'm not going to say not a nice lake, it's decent, right? And they're doing this, right? So I can, by all means, go crack some data, look over some more like pertinent sites that are more directly similar to Westford's. But I think this story is almost more compelling. You're within a 20-minute radius, you have a town that has half the population than you, has not nearly as nice, I use the term broadly as nice, not equipped to serve recreation as well as you guys are, and they did 724 rentals last year. So even if your community doesn't embrace this to the levels that Maynard's does, you're still going to get traffic from Maynard, from folks who are going to come. They're not going to 724. They have 382 unique users. They're not just going to stay in Maynard and kayak. They're going to want to see what's going on in Westford, and they're going to come kayak in your region. You guys, as the second launcher of this in that general sphere, are going to pick up their traffic. It's a Burger King opening up next to a McDonald's type of scenario.
Totally. So, Matt, Chris, what happens if at the end of the 5 years we decide to, move on? How does this unit get removed?
We come and pick it up.
Okay.
And there's no cost at that point?
There's no what? Sorry?
No additional cost to the town for removal?
No. You guys can, you've already paid, so, I mean, you can keep this out there for, again, I understand the question. You can keep this out for 100 years. You can keep this out for 5 years. We'll come pick it up whenever you want. But again, you have the right, you have the option to keep this out there as long as you want. That $35,000 fee, you have the ability to keep it out there forever.
What happens if it turns out it's grossly underperforming in terms of the amount of rentals? Is there any point where you guys would say we no longer want to have to support this facility?
Short answer, no, we're never going to come pick this up. We want to grow regionality. Again, the bottom line is, I'm zooming out because you guys, I know you're not privy to data and how this works as closely as I am. The fact that your neighbor has 724 rentals, Maynard's population is going to automatically keep your station in good standing because they're going to have at least 100 uses, if not 200 uses per year from Maynard residents alone, based on how people use nearby stations once we install in a town, right? Not worried at all about your guys' station based on what we're seeing in and around your area. But to more specifically answer the question, the only thing that we would do, we're in the business of kind of creating networks because those perform better. So we would never come and just say, hey, you're not doing well, we're coming to pick up our station. What would happen is we would come to the table at the end of 5 years and ask you to renegotiate the revenue split. All we're gonna do is want to break even. So if you're getting, again, we're talking about if you're getting less than 100 rentals a year, we would want to say, hey, we're losing money on operating this. If we shifted to 80%, 20% revenue split instead of 70-30, we break even and don't lose money on this. Are you amenable to that new revenue split? You could say, F off, kick rocks. But there's a good chance you say, yeah, that's fine. We're still servicing a small percentage of our population, and we would keep it there. Again, Matt knows, I've worked with him in the past. I'm not here to overpromise whatsoever. I wouldn't be as confident or telling you as strongly if you didn't have a neighbor 20 minutes away doing 724 rentals in their second year.
Chris, we got another question for you.
Shoot.
Hi, Chris. I'm glad you're not worried about our town. That makes me feel a little better. But I love the premise of this company because the main goal is to keep people active and get them out and enjoying nature. I have two questions. The first question is, when it comes to the service, it says standard marketing package. Would that include you marketing Westford as a a send-off location to other towns that have the rentals already installed? Like Maynard, would you advertise to Maynard and say, hey, Westford's now a part of this. You can now go enjoy Forge Village or whatever, wherever we end up putting this kayak rental. Does that include like dispersion of like just telling people about it? Because I think one thing people often miss when it comes to a new opportunity is it's not marketed properly, so people don't even know it exists. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? So that was my first question.
Yeah, thank you. I'll answer that one first. Well, and then I'll listen to the second one. We market this in terms of building that website, right? Where I agree with everything you just said. Time and time again, I hear from parks directors during this process, we have to spend taxpayer dollars responsibly, so on and so forth. But then when we go to install it, that sentiment seems to disappear. This is about awareness. This is somewhat unique, right? It's not automatic that people are going to drive by it and know exactly what it is. It's an awareness campaign. All we see that leads to success is some organic social posts. You don't have to spend money. You don't have to go crazy. Let your community know that this exists and what it is. A simple video. I can share examples at some point of what other communities do. It's not that much, nor is it that much needed to make the community aware of this. So we create that website. You guys link out to it. We can send promo codes to you guys. You can work with our design team to create things if you wanted to. I have a program where they wanted to print out cards, little postcards with the QR code linking to that website. And they went kind of, like you guys, go to local businesses for the baseball fence kind of advertising, right? At the local hotel, can you put this card in the lobby, right? Can you put this at the deli counter, right? And just make people aware of it. That's kind of the key. That's kind of the answer in a nutshell. We're not doing the SEO or anything like that, but we also, that's because we don't see success tied to that. It's really simplistically down to just, do people know that this is here, and do they know what it is? It's very clear on the instructions how to use it. Again, we do the customer support, so we've learned over time where people have gotten tripped up, and we make it as simple as possible.
Okay. No, that makes sense. So it's kind of a marriage of what we do as a community and how we kind of push the information out there, and then you work on your end to make the website, you know, aesthetically pleasing and whatnot. That makes sense. So,
yeah, and just to interrupt, sorry, go to, if anyone later, go to rent.fund and you'll see exactly what we've built for other cities. You guys can have some say in the content that you put in there, right? Yeah. The other thing is if you do have a tourism department, they love this, right? I mean, it's not uncommon for, you know, the Main Street Business Alliance to bring this to the town manager and say, hey, this helps it helps improve hyper-local tourism. We're getting people county-wide or the next town over, a town 20 minutes away. People are coming here, obviously not just because they can rent a kayak, but you can rent a kayak. Oh yeah, that bookstore's there. Oh yeah, that restaurant. And it just spurs more, you know, hyper-local tourism, to say the least.
okay.
Sorry for cutting you.
No, that answered my question. Thank you, Chris. And then the second question I had, you mentioned something about disc golf and basketball.
Yeah.
I mean, disc golf ranges, I'm only aware of a couple within a 30-mile radius of here. I've played on one of them. Is that service, is it like you scan the code and you get the discs out of a locked thing, or is it, I kind of want to hear, because if people are really interested in lifetime activities, like that's table tennis, lawn games, disc, yeah, like that picture right there. Oh, they are in a little box. Okay.
Yep. So we've applied the same technology. You know, listen, there's like 2 other kayak companies out there. I'm not going to speak negatively on any of them. One of them has 13 locations. It's a YouTube company. They've got 13 locations. They do kayaks. We've been doing this for 7 years. We have over 300 partners. We are growing. We build things. The city of Sedona, Arizona has a big putting green. We found 2-piece putters that screw on. You know, you wouldn't bring it out to the course. Not that it would affect my putting. But you know, they're recreationally approved and solid, and are 2-piece putters that go in here. I have people who have binoculars and trail maps. They have a bird watching tourism that flocks to their community. I have a campground offering small, you know, the mini tailgate propane tanks in here. Anything that could fit in a 12 by 12 inch box that your community would be interested in renting out, we can service. Disc golf jumps out because you can't just show up to the disc golf course with a Dick's Sporting Goods Frisbee, right? It doesn't work like that. So, you know, if we start to think about it, you know, if you have a disc golf course, what percentage of the community is that serving?
A very small percentage, but I think
Very
if you put it out there, like, I mean, a lot of people don't even know you need 3 discs, you need a driver, a mid, and a putter, so it's like, but at the end of the day, I think if we can offer these opportunities to our community members, not only will it bolster the opportunities of people maybe even coming to live in this town, like, oh, this town has these opportunities, I have kids growing up, yada yada, or say you're old, you can't play soccer or football or lacrosse anymore, that might be a selling point to even, you know, moving closer to Westford or living in Westford. So I like this idea, and I think it's, you know, there's a lot of good that can come of it. Have you figured out how to do a 2-piece tennis racket?
Not yet, but it will get loud in Westford if you guys want to do a pickleball one.
Mike, you got comments on that?
Good luck with that. But yes, I mean, pickleball, disc golf, you know, those are the 2 or 3 most popular. Again, I showed you like the cornhole and those tailgate games, again, because nobody has the equipment on them when they go to play, right? Again, the disc golf, yeah, this comes with a carrying case and those 3 discs needed to play. And for these ones, we charge $5 an hour. We keep the spare equipment right under the box. So if something breaks, we can easily replace it. It works exactly like the kayaks. You scan the code, you pay for the time that you use. It's the same maintenance technician. It's all on the same app, and the programs cross-promote each other. Again, if somebody signs up as a member, they have unlimited usage for disc golf, kayaks, and potentially whatever else you guys are interested in renting out to the community.
Awesome. Any other questions for Chris?
I have a
Yes.
quick.
So Chris, we have
Chris.
Michelle here, our Director of Recreation.
Hi, Chris.
Awesome, hi, Michelle.
Hi, how are you?
Great.
So, just how many of these locations already charge people to go into their facility?
Great
Do you see
question.
that? Do you see that there's an entry fee for the venue itself and then on top of the rental? Do you see that in many municipalities?
I would say that's a great question. I would say I wish I had data on that, first and foremost. But I would say it's probably a 90-10 split. 90% are kind of your standard park, public entrance, no fee to get in. And maybe 5 to 10% are kind of, hey, you're paying for the car to kind of come in, park, and now you kind of recreate within that park. What's your park system? Do you guys charge to get into the park?
Yeah, so residents don't pay. So the residents would have a cheap day, well, $25 to $40 day. But then, people that come in from out of town, it is a $10 entrance fee to our facility. And then, on top of their rental fee if they choose to rent. So that's all. That's just curious.
Yeah, so I would say I can dig in there and see. I'm not sure if we have that data. Again, I would say I would love to know what you guys feel about that if you charge to do anything else. But I feel like, I channel my travel baseball career, and by career I mean my heyday from 8 to 14. When you travel, you end up spending a little bit more money, right? Those are the people that probably spend more on the snack shack versus the local, and so on and so forth. So without presenting any data, I would love to know, do you think that deters people from wanting to rent a kayak if they're paying? Or do you think it's more like, hey, I'm paying to use this park or to access the park, I'm probably not going to be deterred to spend a little bit more to now recreate in it, right? If I paid $10 to go in to enter the park, am I kind of content with walking around and looking around and then leaving? Or do I want to make the most of my day? I've decided to pretty much spend at least a half day at this park. And that could be rhetorical, just a thought. I wonder if you guys see if, the local pays less, or if the visiting team kind of, I don't know if you have ball fields there, but I don't remember. But are there other ways to spend money in the park? Do you see locals paying more or less than visitors?
No, we don't have that data, I don't think.
No.
Yeah. Any other questions for Chris?
Just one quick.
Yeah, so we have our Director of Public Works here. This is Kyle Fox.
Hey, Chris, just a quick question. So when this is super successful beyond our dreams, and we start with X number, and then we want to add 4 more, do we get charged the 20 grand or just the 15 grand delta?
Great question. It's not the delta, unfortunately. It's going to be that 20K. So basically how we've done this is built in, as you're kind of doing the math here, right? We've built in kind of that, bulk discount there. So if you did the 35, you're saving $5,000, right? If you did 50, you're saving $10,000, and so on and so forth. So in a year, if you wanted to do 4 more, you would pay 20, not the delta. I'm going to share this deck with I guess Chris, and then he can share it around with everyone here, because I don't have your email addresses yet. We also have some, excuse the names, they're working title. The triple's not the worst named one. I'll let you know that one. But the bottom line is we've got some, if you guys are interested in lockers plus kayaks, we've got some kind of bulk offerings as well, right? Like this one is, I can't even count, 12 kayaks, 2 game lanes plus lockers. The game lanes all come with the lockers, plus another bonus locker. Instead of $78K, that's $60, right? Again, nothing here's too black and white. Happy to have a conversation, right? And you know, you see putting green here and ping pong, we can move off of that, right? Stuff like that. So this is a work in progress deck here. I told you the names got a little more corny as we go. This one's the special. But the bottom line is we're discounting because we see when towns have multiple modes of not transportation, of amenities here, more usage, there's more utilization. And so revenue-wise, you make up what this discount is. And for you guys, that just means more popularity, more revenue to you, and more usage across the board. So I'll send this over to you guys. You guys can have a peek. And again, happy to get back on the horn. You guys can, you know, hit me with more questions. I typically am the support person here. I'm with Matt, with Chris, with whomever throughout the entire process, and here to answer questions, present as needed.
Couple more questions for me, at least. Of the non-bike and kayak offerings, which are your most important, Popular, thank you, Michelle.
Popular?
Yeah.
Popular, it depends on your guys' existing amenities. If we were to build lanes for you, I would say, and again, we talked about, I forget who asked the question about kind of older folks. We just started building shuffleboard courts, right? And stuff like that. So that's what I mean. If you present something to us, we're going to look up if it's feasible to build. So if you guys have any imagination or ideas that come up, throw it to us, right? We didn't do a golf setup until Sedona, Arizona asked for it, right? We didn't do shuffleboard until someone asked for it. The most popular, if we were to build a lane, would be cornhole, bocce ball, ping pong. For existing amenities, I would say cornhole, I would say it is disc golf, pickleball, volleyball, basketball, kind of there. What's another one? Horseshoes is a popular one. Again, no one's renting out or owns and carries around horseshoes with them. So if you guys have a horseshoe pit or something like that, again, that's where people are just walking by and saying that'd be pretty neat if we could play it, type of thing.
Okay. Second question. So how does this unit, then I'm going to speak about the kayak rental unit, how does it communicate with you? What's its power source?
Yeah, great question. Solar panels and cell service. So don't worry, we're not coming to eat up the entire utilities bill here. No Wi-Fi, no electricity needed whatsoever. Again, cell service, as long as you have a bar of service, if you can make a phone call from the park, this will work perfectly fine, and solar panels. We winterize the stations come winter time, right? So we shut up shop. We strip it of anything that could be harmed in the winter, signage, technology, life vests, etc. We put a special coating of I'm going to use the broad term called paint here that prevents kind of discoloration and breakdown. And then come springtime, we freshen it up, right? We're coming to open that locker up. Right, leaf blow, just make it pretty, right? If these aren't inviting, then no one uses it, and not only is this a miss from your guys' POV, but it's a swing and miss by us, and we lose money on it just as much, just as like you guys do. So again, everyone's been on some sort of a vacation where they leave the comfy seat on the beach. You get handed some gross-looking life vest, and you start doubting why you're paying for this type of excursion. If the life vest is crummy, if it is sun-drenched and it's lost its color, on that 2-week maintenance check, the technician notices that the life vest is kind of on its way out. We replace those life vests. No cost to you, no hassle to you. New life vests show up. Nothing that you guys have to worry about or take care of.
And the last question for me, how many, I'm going to call them mishaps, have you had? So, people who have gotten in trouble out in the water or injured, claims to your insurance broker. Can you just roughly give us a number there?
Yeah, none that I'm aware of, to be honest. None. We had an issue where we had in Kalamazoo So one in 2023, we had an issue with people returning kayaks. We diagnosed the problem. It was a software issue. We were giving people an option on the rental. We got rid of that. We improved rental accuracy by 93%. So again, we're monitoring, we're handling all of it, and then we make those changes. In 2024, we had 3 stolen units. We had a bike stolen, but again, when you are renting the kayak, your phone, I don't want to say this in a scary way, right? We know where that equipment is during your rental, right? So if somebody was in it, having an issue out on the water and it's not returned, again, listen, I don't want to overstate this. It's not like we're like identifying an emergency in real time, but at the end of the day, every return equipment photo is checked by a human at the end of the day, right? And so if we see a kayak isn't there, we look to see where that kayak is. If you didn't return the kayak, the dot on our map follows you, right? And so we know that there's a kayak kind of lost out at sea, if you will. Or in this case where I'm bringing up, a bike was stolen and our local technician literally saw the dot over, someone's garage, knocked on the door, showed him the screen and said, "Hey, I think you have our bike," and he wheeled it out of the garage back onto our truck. The other 2 issues were both in Kalamazoo, Michigan, where we pleaded with the city to choose a different install location. It was not next to or adjacent, it was at a homeless encampment. And so in the first 2 weeks, somebody had a power tool and cut through our metal locker. We've transitioned to these wood ones. The metal locker and stole 2 kayaks. The same week, or probably a week after, we installed a sign that said, "You are being watched." It's been 1.5 years. We have not had another issue after that. So, if things were to be a problem, we put motion sensor lights. We could do a camera setup. Again, it's our equipment. We want to protect it as much as the next person. So those are kind of the 3 issues that we've seen. Truly, I've been here for over 2 years. No distressing, no injuries, nothing like that, knock on wood. Always something to consider, obviously, when you put people out on the water, but thankfully, no incidents.
Great, thank you for that information.
Chris,
Mike?
one question. From what I hear you saying, a person could actually come down, get a kayak, and theoretically, they could throw it in the back of their vehicle and bring it to another pond or location in town and then still return it within the two hours or 3 to 4 hours. That's perfectly okay?
Absolutely. And again, you're not, yes, the payment structure is 2 hours and 4 hours, but it's not like you can take this out for 8 hours if you want to. It's not like you're constantly looking at your watch because it has to be returned by a certain time. Of course, you pay for the time that you use, so you may want to bring it back in 2 hours, but it's not like there's an alarm going off where you're in the middle of a great day and you have to bring it back by a certain time.
Yeah,
you can take it out for as long or short as you want, and yes, you can take them, put it in a pickup truck and drive up to Maynard if you want, or drive somewhere else and put it in a different body of water. Absolutely.
Okay.
Awesome. All right, we are so far past our agenda. It's not even funny. And Chris, you've been extremely generous with your time. This has been a great presentation, and appreciate all the information that you've given us. So I look forward to receiving that. I think what we'll probably do is, I think we'll probably put this on the next commission's meeting.
You get the presentation.
I can share with you guys.
Personally, I don't mind taking a vote now. I don't know how anybody else feels, but
what would be your motion?
My motion would be to move forward with this proposal.
What specifically?
An 8 kayak rental facility.
An 8? At what location?
Forge Pond. I mean, obviously, there's so much more that has to be approved.
Yes, of course.
But I think it's a good thing for the community. I also don't know if maybe CPC money could pay for that.
I would say CPC should.
I mean, $35,000 for CPC money. I mean, it's a lot of money, but still.
But you get it back.
You get it back. I mean, you're getting revenue back over time.
Yeah.
I don't see much of a downside to this, or any downside to this. I don't. But.
Well, that's why we have town staff to tell us what are the downsides, gentlemen.
How do you feel about PW? Do you see any problems in your
I know one problem right off the bat, and it's gonna be the dock at Forge, which doesn't belong to the town, right? That's community boating's dock.
Yeah.
So if I'm Joe Schmo renting a kayak,
That's
I
what-
see a dock, I'm gonna go walk on the dock, get in the boat. So we would have to.
Is that community rowings?
Yeah. So that's the only thing that jumps out, and I know that they would get upset with people using the dock, and that's liability there. So if we were to put it at Forge, we'd have to clearly indicate that that dock is not for launching boats. Not that you need a dock at Forge, it's a sandy beach, you just walk the kayak out and hop in it, but people are gonna make that assumption.
I think the other challenge is, something that Michelle brought up is when the beach is in operation.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so we are charging when they enter the parking area. So how is that going to impact?
I think that's okay, because it's not, if they come in the parking area, they would have the obvious opportunities to kayak, but they also have the beach they can use, which is,
the playground.
It's and there's, the playground is there, so there's other, it's not like that's all they can get is the kayak. They can spend the day there pretty much.
It is. It's really
And
enticing.
for an extra
'cause-
$10 for non-resident, I don't think
And
that-
residents, it's free.
Yeah.
So.
If
It's
you go to Forge or Edwards, you have the swim area that's cordoned off, and there's no trail around the pond, so there's really no way to explore except by boat. And people bring their boats car top to both locations. I think this is going to be really enticing for people
The other
who.
thing you mentioned, you could do the 8, but do 4 Edwards and 4 Forge, if that would make sense. I don't know if it would or not.
I don't see where,
Place in
I don't
Edwards
see
you
an
put it.
easy place to
Yeah,
put
I
it
see.
in
Edwards
Edwards.
is tough.
I would be inclined to even go with 12. I think it's
Oh,
gonna be
you
so,
think
I think it's going to be so popular that we.
I have no problem.
agree.
I have no problem with 12. I have no problem with 12. I thought some people were thinking maybe start with 4, but I would.
I think on a hot day in the summer when
It's gonna
one person rents one and everyone else can be like, I want to do that. It's gonna
Hey,
be.
Chris, one question. Are you still there?
Yeah.
One question is, the life jackets that are available are all adult life jackets, correct?
Yeah, they are. They're Coast Guard approved. I'm not sure what Massachusetts requires, but like in Illinois, they require a whistle, so we put whistles on the life vests, right? They are adult life vests. They are adjustable, 90 to like 325 pounds, I think it is. So 90 to 300 plus pounds adjustable.
I got a couple in my truck if you want to play them.
Yeah.
Well, Mike, your comment kind of spurred me on to think in Groton, I forget what the pond is called, but there's a rack where people can lock their canoes and their sups, and like I've gone there a couple times and it's always packed. Even in October when it's 60 degrees out, people are still
Oh yeah.
out on the water, dipping their feet in, kayaking. And I took advantage of that when I had my ACL done. I did a lot of, kayaking and low impact to no impact activities. So I think this would appeal to not only your 18 to 25 to 30, my age. It would appeal to people that are older and just enjoy.
I would be interested in using it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So a good compliment to this, and it's what Maynard did, was they have a semi-accessible dock. So that was Easy Dock. That's the company that installed it, and it allows you to drag the boat onto the dock, sit on this kind of slide basically, and then use the paddle to pull yourself into the water. It's not fully accessible, but it's about 1/10 the cost of a fully accessible dock. But it does let folks with some mobility issues and balance issues get in and out of the water.
Okay.
But you don't need it. I mean, you can get into a sit on top kayak pretty easily. But that worked in Maynard, and it might be something also to consider.
Yeah, I think it depends on where we locate this vis-a-vis the beach, right?
Yeah.
So if it was more towards the parking lot, I think the coastline's a little steeper. We probably want to.
Yeah, I put it in there. It's a little sketch.
Yeah.
But the beach is super easy.
If we put it nearer to the beach, on the sort of the opposite side of where the dock currently is, right? So the one that's closer
Yeah.
to the parking area, people could just walk it right onto the sand and into the water.
Yeah, I've gotten into my
So
boat
without
plenty of
trying to
times.
make this any longer than necessary, if we, say, took 12 unit under advisement, and we said we approved this as a commission, does this have to, how does this move forward? The same way the turf field does?
I think we would want to bring it to the staff.
Right.
And let staff peruse and think about it. We
Right.
might even want to bring it through to legal counsel to understand liability concerns,
Okay.
even over above the $1 million liability that they're offering.
Especially with the children case, that they're not
Right.
covered, they're not covered, so that.
Right. Any other things that you guys can think of?
So,
Mike?
so
We've got a couple of issues. Their liability caps would be well below what our requirement is for the town. You have a 5-year agreement that requires town meeting approval.
Right.
Anything over 3 years. You've got procurement questions.
Yep.
Has to be procured.
What is, can you put a little bit more detail on that?
Yeah, so basically every tier that they had would at
Actually,
least.
I'm sorry. Chris, this is Mike Edwards. He's our assistant town manager. So he's speaking in the corner here, just so you know who's speaking.
So basically, all of the tiers in the middle would have to go through the $10,000 to $50,000 procurement rules. So those would require basically specifications be developed, and we would take quotations. The 12 unit would have to be competitively bid. So we can use this information to generate estimates, but ultimately this has to go through a public procurement process.
Only if we go with the 12?
If you go with any of them, you still have to take proposals.
Okay. So that's no big deal.
and that's regardless of whether CPC would fund it,
Regardless.
okay.
With any of the funding sources, but
So what you mean by that is, we would say, we love this idea, we would go forward with it, and propose it to, let's say, the Community Preservation Commission. If they decided to say, yes, we'd be willing to bring this forward to town meeting, and town meeting voted to appropriate $50,000, you would still have to go out for a request for quote.
if it's over 50,000, it has to be competitively bid.
Right.
So.
But that happens after town meeting appropriates the money.
Correct.
Correct, okay.
Yeah, so this could be the basis for an estimate. I would certainly recommend, increasing that amount to adjust for inflation, et cetera. But in any case, to do even a non-competitively bid procurement process, we would have to have really detailed specifications to take proposals, so you're looking at an apples-to-apples comparison across different vendors.
Got it. So what information do we need from, say, Chris in order to provide that initial specification to drive a proposal?
Well, Chris can't provide our specification.
Framingham is just doing this right now.
That's the place to start, to see what other towns
So-
have put together for.
That means I get to call Jim? All right.
Oh, yeah. Jim Snyder?
No,
he's
geez.
not in it anymore.
Jim.
He's in.
It's
Framingham.
Allison Elliott.
He's not in Fire and Recreation anymore? Okay.
No, they're actually bidding this very thing right now. So they put out an RFP about a month ago. So they'd be
That's our favorite, is to copy something.
You just copy their
That's-
homework.
That's
yeah.
what I would start with,
Okay.
is take somebody else's specs, make it yours, and then use that. But that, I think you probably have enough information to build a budget for what you would need to take to CPC and ultimately to town meeting.
Right.
And process-wise, we go through the same
Yeah,
process.
it's just
we
like
do.
buying a truck.
This fall, I'm gonna come to the commission and say, what is your priorities for capital?
Mhm.
And then that's what, based on your direction, is what Michelle and I will bring to the capital committee. If this is in there, then we'll do, we'll do a capital worksheet. If we think it's CPA eligible, we'll do a CPA application. So that's how the process rolls to town meeting.
Thank you. And as far as the insurance liability concerned, if $1 million is not
Well, I
being
think
required
that
to-
goes into the specifications. So if you
Right.
take specifications that say another municipality has come up with, it's going to have specs for insurance. We match all that with ours.
Well, what is our, I just didn't know, what is ours, just for.
I think on something like this, you're probably looking at, I would guess a $3 million cap.
So Chris, how does that cross your desk before? Have communities come back to you and said, hey, the million isn't enough, and how do you guys deal with that?
Yeah,
Not one has challenged that.
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah,
what
it's
we
1 million,
talked
3
with.
million, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
3 million.
You guys can
aggregate.
have three.
1
You
million.
guys can have a $3 million insurance policy. Definitely, the cost of that insurance policy would be paid by you guys, and it would probably cost about $40,000 a year just for that insurance policy. I think that was the last quote that we
It's a
got.
1 million per incident, 3 million aggregate annually is our typical.
Ours is 1 million per occurrence, $5 million aggregate.
All right, well, then your software.
So I think we're good. I think we're good.
Yep.
Based on that, and then we have auto motor vehicle for up to $1 million as well. So again, I mean, not to make light of insurance, but I met with the city of Baltimore. There was like 37 lawyers there. They were like, yeah, this is fine, right? So not to gloss over the insurance thing, you guys will review our exact certificate of insurance. If you do have any pushback, we'll go from there. I do want to say the procurement is not obviously something that we want to do for all the obvious reasons. We're going to go through procurement if that's what you guys want to do, but I think Matt can attest it hasn't been the best process for Framingham. They're now,
Well, I don't think we have a choice.
Yeah,
I think
it is
Mass
what it
General
is.
Law requires
Yeah.
us to do that.
Sorry?
It's a requirement of Mass General Law. It's not a requirement of the town of Westford.
Yeah, it's
Understood.
A funding.
Understood.
It's a difference in funding too. So Framingham, it's a little bit of an unfair comparison because Framingham's not paying for it. So technically, they might have been able to avoid procurement, but they wanted to. Their legal counsel recommended it, but since Westford would be paying for it, it's a different situation.
Understood. Thank you for that context. Appreciate it, Matt.
Kyle?
Chris, is the concrete pad included, or is that something
It
you
is
look for the
not.
town?
That is something you guys would lay. Happy to do it. We can get a quote for you and do that as well.
Just need to build it into the budget.
Maynard doesn't have one. They use, I think, it's just like crushed stone or something.
But
Yeah.
still, we would have to build
Still
it.
a cost.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would also say the top two locations are beaches and campgrounds. This is one in Ocean County, New Jersey. Again, you have people who have no clue that this exists in their town, naturally, right? And they're sitting on the town beach in their bathing suits, right? And they see this over here. You're getting rentals from it just being on the beach alone, let alone people driving to kayak, right? So definitely our best performing location. Listen, we'll follow any process that is your process, right? I will say that the benefit here, I'm not holding any cards back, right? Being completely transparent with you guys. Happy to lock in pricing so that you don't pay $6,000 more in August, right? By signing an agreement, making you pay $0 until we actually install it. And please don't tell my boss, but I also mentioned to you guys that I would do a back out fee clause that if for some reason you didn't get board approval, aka you changed your minds, you wouldn't be liable to pay a single dollar on this, right? So let's keep that between us. But so very favorable terms there in that regard. Not sure how that's affected if we go down the procurement route and how long that takes.
So any contract we have and really any procurement we have is going to have an so.
Sorry.
Somebody, can you repeat it?
Anything we have, and let me just back up 1 second. So, or do you guys routinely use contracts provided by municipalities as opposed to your own?
I would say I can count on one hand the amount of times that we've used a city's agreement. I'm not opposed to it. They've just been Chicago, Baltimore to a degree, major cities. There are times where we kind of combine agreements. Listen, I'm not poo-pooing anything that you guys are saying. Right? If you need us to sign your agreement, we'll review that agreement, and there's a good chance we'll sign it without any pushback. But there might be pushback on it. So, again, happy to play along with your approval process. We also have a sole source letter if that's helpful. That seemingly avoids procurement a lot of the time. Again, not as well versed in kind of what you guys have to do by law, but just throwing out options, if you will.
So Chris, outside of Maynard and now potentially Framingham, what other, you said Denham was another place that you have, you've worked with? Any other
Yep,
places?
Dedham, in Massachusetts, Franklin, Massachusetts,
Okay.
in Connecticut.
No, that's okay. I just really, Mike, it's pertinent to Massachusetts just because of Mass General Law procurement, so that.
Gotcha.
That's fine.
Yep.
Okay, I think what we would probably need to do is, why don't we vote to add it to our capital plan, or add it for consideration to our capital plan for fiscal year 27, right? Are we on 27, 50?
Yep.
Fiscal year 27, and then when we get to capital planning, because we do have other capital needs, we would, look at this and weigh it against all our other capital requirements that we have and prioritize as necessary.
So this would, it moved along, hopefully be for annual town meeting next spring?
I think that's the fastest we can make this work.
That'd be the earliest we could probably get.
I just can't see it. I can't see, so number one, if we were gonna go through CPA, they typically only take really emergency requests for
something like this,
special.
we'd have to start in October or something, that would be the earliest we'd even, the first meeting, October, November, or whatever it is.
Right, so I think that would be
It
tough.
would be, you'd be submitting it sometime in the fall or whatever, and we'd
Yeah.
be taking it up for next year's town meeting.
So Chris, just to close the loop with you, if the commission does vote to move forward on putting this on our capital plan, we typically go through the capital planning process in the August, September timeframe. Is that something about right, Kyle? I think
Maybe a little later.
a little later. And at that point, we can circle back with you and let you know where it sits in the process. I understand we may have to pay a cost increase, but we'll build that in as part of our proposed budget. And we're gonna have to unfortunately work it through, the procurement process and the funding process that we have in the town, which does mean that it might be a little slower. Our annual town meeting, if it does get that far, would be, next spring. And then we would probably look to, can we put it in, if it passes town meeting, can it go in and?
Right away.
It's
Right away?
capital.
Okay, that's capital. So then we could look for a possible installation in the, late spring, early summer of next year.
Well, let me ask one question. Do we own this unit?
Do we own this unit? No.
Then it's not capital. Then it basically would be a contract for service, so it wouldn't be available until after the fiscal year.
But would it still go through our capital planning process though, wouldn't it?
I don't know. I mean, gosh, Kyle, this is almost like a equipment lease if you get down to it, because if we don't own the asset, it's not a capital asset.
Yeah, that's
Therefore, it
true.
would be subject to regular appropriation, which means it wouldn't be available till July 1.
I don't know that.
What about, does the same limitation apply for community preservation funding? I don't think so.
It's gonna be the same, because it's gotta be appropriated in a fiscal year.
No, that's fine, that's fine.
We use prior
Yeah.
year
Yeah.
for capital.
But just be clear, we could use community preservation funds potentially to pay for this, even though it's a leased item, if you will.
That I don't know.
Okay, so, all right. Question upon question is
I
being
think there's
opened
a lot
up.
of things we'd have to kind
Yeah.
of dig through.
Okay.
To figure out how exactly this works, but it's not a capital outlay item if we don't own this asset.
That's a good point.
Okay.
It's a contract for service.
Okay. But as far as budgeting it, I don't know if it would still.
I think we'd have to kind of think through it. I mean, given what it is, I think
It's closer to a capital item than anything else I can think of.
It's
The fact that we're getting revenue from it, does that make a difference? Is we're
not
getting
from
rev-
an appropriation standpoint. It does, obviously when we're looking at cost benefit
But the approval process, so that doesn't make a difference how it's
Well,
handled.
it's
'cause
two-
we-
it's two poten-
You're not budgeting for revenues.
Right. The question is really, it's what is the process for approval?
Right.
From a budgeting perspective, in my mind. So, would you mind, I know you're super busy, but could you inquire, or?
We can certainly look. I mean, we'd need to see if he wants to send us this kind of, well, you're getting all this information.
Yeah.
So send this over and we'll look at it and see how it works from an appropriation standpoint. I'm about positive it's not going to be capital. How we would want to consider it is kind of an interesting question because it kind of acts like capital and walks like capital, but it's not capital. So does it go into that same prioritization?
I don't know.
Process.
Right.
So yeah, it's
But in any case, the process starts here by us moving it forward from us.
You can make a motion to ask, a motion could be to request that the town manager's office review the presentation and provide guidance on how to move forward in terms of budgeting.
That's what I would suggest,
and
because
funding.
I don't think you know exactly what you're moving forward at this point.
Okay.
I mean, you've got a rough idea of something that you'd like to do. We'd have to think through, what does this look like from a project standpoint? There's, you know, some level of infrastructure associated with it, whether it's a concrete pad. You know, then you've got the ADA question. If you're launching a new program that's not accessible, you have to make it accessible. So there's a lot of other pieces, but I think what you would be motioning is just make a recommendation to investigate it further and figure out what do we want to do.
Can we direct that to your office, or would it go to Kyle or Michelle?
I would kick it to the town manager's office,
Okay.
and she can figure out where she wants
All
to send it. My guess is it's going to be a collaborative effort.
Okay. You ready for that motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the next step in the process going to the town manager's office to determine the approval process.
Try that again.
What?
Can you try that again?
Yeah. I'm trying to think.
I know it's late.
Or for further evaluation.
We approve the further investigation or further evaluation of
kayak
adding the
rentals.
kayak program to Westford.
Okay, for use at Forge Beach.
At Forge Beach using, should I mention the number, or do we care about the number?
I don't think that matters at this point.
Okay.
Okay. All
Because
right.
the number, the dollar sign,
I don't think it matters.
it's
Yeah,
20, it's 30 or 50, it doesn't, okay.
Right.
Yeah, I think
So,
you gotta
yes, the
get
motion
program.
is to approve the further evaluation of adding this kayak rental system to Westford and forwarding it to the town manager's office.
Okay, do I have a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion passes unanimously, 6-0-0. Thank you very much. Chris, please send that presentation, any other pertinent documentation to me, and I will get it over to the appropriate parties. Thank you again for your time this evening. Really appreciate it. I know we went super late, and look forward to seeing how this evolves over time.
Yes, thank you everyone for the time. I appreciate it, and honestly, a lot of times I get 0 questions and people either don't move forward or move forward and don't know what they're getting, right? So I appreciate, as I'm sure your community does, your guys' thoughtfulness on this. Yeah, appreciate the time, and we'll be looking forward to the next conversation. Have a great night, everyone.
Chris, I have one more question.
Oh.
Does
Heck
anybody,
yeah, let's do it.
Does anybody ever tell you you look like Josh Groban?
Oh my gosh. I don't even know who that is. All
No,
right.
but if you say it a little louder, I think my wife is downstairs, please. So just a little louder. No, I'm just joking. No, but I'll take that as a compliment, and we'll end it there. Thank you.
All right. Thanks again. Appreciate it, Chris.
Thank
All right.
you, guys. Appreciate it.
All right. Take care. All right, guys. Let's wrap this up. Parks, grounds, reports, and updates. DPW Director, you have
We'll
30
be
seconds.
Brief.
All right.
Shade Sail project, we held a pre-construction meeting, still waiting on a construction date.
That's the project
I
that
know,
will
it's-
never end.
I know.
It's been years.
I can't put anything off of my plate. Jack Wells Courts, contractor is back working.
I saw.
Playground is closed.
But I saw a lot of heavy equipment there this morning.
They're doing good work.
All right.
Yep.
Playground's closed though, huh?
Yep.
That's gonna make people happy.
Jack Wells entrance. I'll just talk about the entrance because the other one is really pet safety, but coming along nicely. We expect within the next month to have the new entrance be the entrance
Are you leaving it as crushed stone?
No, it'll be
You're gonna
paved.
pave it into the, okay.
Yep. And that's really where we're at, timing-wise. Our paving contractor is doing Texas Road and the sub-roads off of there this year.
Yep.
So we're coupling that with the,
Smart.
with this
How are you
project.
gonna close off the old entrance? What are you gonna do for that?
We're gonna pull up the old pavement so that we don't have the puddle there anymore, and we're gonna loam it and seed it. We wanna see kinda how it looks. We're still waiting to make a decision on whether we move the Jack Walsh sign to the new driveway entrance, or we leave it there, maybe rotate it towards the road, maybe make a little picnic table there with a pocket park kind of thing. So we kinda wanna see what it looks like. We also want to do some plantings there.
Yep. Make the neighbors
Just to
happy.
pretty up the area, but we'll see what it looks like as we approach the end of the project, but we have a few ideas we're bandying about. The last thing I wanted to bring up, I spoke to a resident who lives next to Edwards Beach today. He couldn't be at the meeting tonight. I offered to share some of his concerns with the commission, so that's what I'll do. He was concerned about the dust created by Edwards Beach, said it's mostly dirt now, not sand, so he's getting a lot of wind-blown dust onto his house. He's not happy with that. A lot of drinking and partying. We had coordinated a response to his previous email with Captain Brialt, who reported that they have received calls on 5 incidents since January of '24. This gentleman, when I brought that up, said 4 of the 5 calls were from him. According to Captain Brialt, they are patrolling it there during off hours and weekends. He doesn't like that out-of-towners use the property, doesn't think we should have attendance there, it's a waste of money. Doesn't like that the bathrooms get used after hours. He's seen illegal dumping in the dumpster. And that kind of sums up his concern. So I told him I would share it with the commission, and I've now done that.
Dust is from the road? Dust
No,
is-
he's
Beach?
claiming from the beach. Yeah,
Like when the wind blows, it hits his house?
yes, that's the claim. Yep.
Huh.
I know, when he first started to say it, I assumed he was gonna mean from the gravel road, but no, he said from the beach.
Where's his house located in retrospective? Is he?
It's directly adjacent.
Okay.
He's on Lower Road, which is
What?
a Lower Road, which is a private road.
Is it a dirt road or is it a paved road?
I think it's paved.
Okay, the reason I ask is some of that dust be coming from his own dirt
Yeah,
road.
I
that
think
he's
it's
on.
paved, but it's a
Okay.
private road, so I'm not super familiar with
Right,
it.
I just wonder if it's coming from that or something, I don't know.
What did you say about bathrooms?
He said the bathroom facilities there are getting used at night.
They're getting used at night?
Yeah, he said they're unlocked and being used at night.
It's just a porta potty, right?
I'm not sure.
Porta potty.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I thought it was.
Okay.
There's no, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not that familiar with Edward,
Yeah.
so, yeah.
There used to be a bathroom in
Porta
that
potties are
building.
there. Bathrooms are open when we're staffed,
Okay,
so nobody can get in them.
but he's referring to the porta potty.
So
I thought he was referring to the permanent bathrooms, but.
They're not open.
is the sand causing any issues beyond nuisance? Like, is it causing damage to his property at all?
He didn't indicate so.
Okay.
Yeah. His solution was 10 truckloads of sand. But I did share with him that there's environmental considerations. We can't just bring sand down and dump it on a beach, even though it seems that simple. It would require permits from DEP, so.
Just curious, do you know how long he's lived there? Is it a long-term resident? I'm just wondering if someone moved in.
Since 24.
Yeah, no, I'm not sure. I think he's been there sometime.
Sometime.
Yep.
And you said his concerns have all been relayed to the Westford Police Department?
Yep, in the town manager's office. And Michelle.
And besides sand, was there any other things that he was looking to have?
That was the primary objective, was sand to stop the erosion and PD presence to stop what he termed as partying and loud noise. I think it struck me as a similar concern that we heard at a commission meeting last year. I forget which meeting that was.
Well, we did have a resident
That was
who
more related
approached
to
about-
Forge, right?
Well, the one I'm thinking of was it Edwards, and it was about the use of music at the beach.
we put the signs
So
up,
we did
right?
the
Yeah, we were
signs.
talking about signs, yeah. So
Um,
that's what I was remembering.
Okay. Yeah, it's a tough one. Is the
Most of this is happening, after hours and at night.
Of course. Do we lock it?
Can't.
The gate's no longer functional?
I mean, we could each night when we close up, but they're gonna get.
top
in.
the
They'll
fence.
just jump over the fence.
Yeah, did he say there's a lot of vehicle traffic there, or is it just kids,
Not
neighborhood
that he
kids that
said.
are kind of busting?
Yeah, not that he said.
That's a real tough one.
Yeah.
What's our ability to put up cameras or signs to say that you're under surveillance? I think there's some legal concerns with that.
PD has an issue with that as a concept, just the cameras that aren't there. It's who's gonna monitor them.
And even if they're there, they still have an issue?
Well, certainly something we can bring up to PD.
Yeah.
Funding would certainly be an issue.
Oh, yeah, and that would be a challenge.
Yep.
You said he was the source of 4 of those 5 phone calls?
Yeah.
But he's probably the one closest to the.
Yeah, yeah, he's literally in a
The one
butter
most
to the
affected, yeah.
parcel. Yep.
I hate to say it, but I feel like if you buy a house next to a public beach, you should be expecting a certain level of usage of that location. I mean,
As long as the beach was there when you bought, already.
yeah,
there.
yeah. I mean, it's
It's similar to the person that had complaints about the softball games at VFW Park.
yeah.
You know, they bought a house next to a softball field in another park, and we made some changes. The lights go off at a certain time now and this and that. But, it's something you've got to live with if you're going to buy a house next to some kind of facility like that.
Yeah, I mean,
to some extent.
I think it's fair to expect that police respond to illegal activity at night, but I mean, at a certain point, it's tough to really prevent anyone from ever trying to access the property when it's after hours.
So the police are aware,
They are.
and they're patrolling.
Yep.
Okay, and he was told that.
Yep.
All right, so I think we'll need to leave it at that, and if you hear back from him, please let him know. We'll be happy to have him come to a commission meeting, and we'll be able to speak with him in person.
Okay. will
Thank
do.
you for that
Thank you.
report. Any other items?
I guess the only quick thing I would add, just because my jog my memory, the VFW lighting project is out to bid.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
Oh, good.
That's excellent.
Is that both the?
Yeah, they both are.
of the
Yeah.
bid?
We combined the bids, so.
Is there a deadline when that has to be?
Yeah, I forget the date we opened bids, but it's within a few weeks.
Are you hoping that it will be completed by the fall?
So we put dual completion dates in. For Jeff, he needs it for football season at WA.
Yep.
So his needed to be completed by September 7th, I believe. And for the Forge field, we put December 15th as a completion date.
Well, how is that gonna impact the men's softball league's use of?
So use the existing lights.
So if the company comes in and says, we're gonna do the switch in September or
Then that's
October?
fine. Yeah, it might affect a couple games.
Okay, it's not like a months long project?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It's a few days type thing, or?
Yeah, I mean, there's pre-work that they would have to do, put the footings in,
Yeah.
put the towers up.
Yeah.
But then when they do the switch over, it'd be pretty quick. Yeah.
They
And
could
we would
leave-
work with whoever the vendor is to minimize disruption.
Okay. I don't remember off the top of my head when their season, I think their season ends in October.
The playoffs end up in October.
Is it? Okay, so, all right. Great, well, that's great news. Anything else?
That's it. Thank you.
Michelle, thank you, Kyle. Michelle, anything from your end?
Just the usual spring goings on. We
Mhm.
have some spring programs that have started. I'm in the midst of hiring for summer. That's going well. I'm hoping to have that all wrapped up by the end of May and, and then take next steps to start preparing for summer programming. I've been working alongside the library, helping them out with space so they can run some of their programs. So that's been kind of fun to help out with them. And they're going to be using our existing Kids Club summer program this summer to bring some of their entertainers and vendors into the program, stuff that they would normally do at the library. They're going to join in at Kids Club, add some added fun for the kids that are there along with the public. So that's kind of like the big thing that we've been working on with them to find them space to be able to operate. So it's been nice getting to know the library staff who I normally wouldn't interact with. So other than that, like I said, I'm in summer mode interviewing, getting that ready, getting ready to open beaches in not till June, but we all know how fast that comes. So.
And you are prepared to capture numbers, right, this summer?
I am prepared to capture whatever numbers that you need me to capture.
Yes.
If I recall correctly, Matt, what were we going to ask? What did we say?
Oh my gosh.
Putting you on the hook because
We want. I think it. Oh gosh, it was. I know we wanted to get the count of residents and non-residents.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Was there anything else besides that?
No, I think we usually do non-residents, but I'm going to be capturing the amount of residents
Yes.
that also come in this summer.
I think you wanted to do it.
Very
on
easy
weekends
to do.
versus weekdays too.
Well, every day we would get a count.
Every day,
Yeah,
okay, yeah.
And then we'd be able to track it over.
Yeah,
and-
okay.
Yeah. so-
Yeah, I just want to find I'd like to find, old pen and paper seems to be working, but it would be nice
Tell you,
if
why don't we just talk to somebody at WA? A kid in WA could whip up an app in about a half a day that everybody could use to log this data. Even if you're just doing it in a Google form,
Yeah, well, we
right?
can, yeah.
I
the
mean,
kids
every
that are
kid that's
there.
working there is going to
Yeah.
have a cell phone.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's true.
we'll do something.
You do not use, yeah, you don't need to use
Maybe
pen
a
and
capstone
paper.
project if some kids are.
No, we'll find, I have someone who's gonna be running the waterfronts this summer,
Oh, okay,
besides me.
okay, great.
So she'll have some nice innovative ideas, and we're gonna sit and chat about expectations.
Who is this person?
My site director that runs Robinson. So, her name is Emily.
Emily?
Yes.
Fantastic. I'm glad to hear that she's willing to do that.
Yes.
Looking forward to the innovation.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
I'd love to get her take on what we just saw tonight after she's.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great idea too.
Yeah.
It's a great concept. I mean,
it's a win-win.
I mean, the fact that, we picked a beach and if they want to throw it in the car and go to Ed's and then bring it back,
Yeah,
like,
someone was along
that's
Sod
neat
Pond.
too.
One of the
Yeah,
other ponds
long-
that
yeah,
maybe want to
yeah,
bring
I
it
mean,
near
there's-
the house.
there's
Learn
many
from him, yeah.
waterways in Westford that could be
Yeah.
utilized.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, cool. Anything
And when
else,
Matt
Michelle?
needs the paddle,
Yeah.
I
I like the stand-up paddle board.
They're-
to
they're
be
cool.
honest.
That's a cool idea.
Yeah.
I think the hardest part for us will be to choose the right amount of kayaks
Combination,
versus
yeah.
subs.
So-
Okay. Anything else, Michelle?
No.
All right, on to meeting minutes. March and April were provided to us. Does anybody have any comments, changes to the
I
minutes?
have one.
Yes, Mike.
The April meeting, April, they left out a T on your last name on. Where it says, actually, the part that's highlighted in yellow, Robert Butler's street name. In that sentence, next sentence, says no one had been surveyed, Commission Chair Barrett said, and you're missing the final T. It's the
you
one
for-
that has the yellow highlighted
Okay.
in April, second sentence.
Yes.
You man, that's a close reading.
It's hard to grab their names unless you
really
like
is.
ask them again what they said.
That's the iPhone.
Yeah, the question, when we don't have the street name, I think that's, still, that's the best we can do, is just leave it as a question mark.
We looked it up. Rose looked it
spent
up.
time trying to find it. but
So, is the question mark on the name or on the street name? I assume it's on the street name. So therefore, the comma would be after Butler, right?
I'm not sure it's Robert Butler for sure.
Oh. Okay. Maybe we should just say
There's a
unknown
Robert,
resident.
there's a Robert Butler, age 43.
Wait, say that
That lives
again, Mike?
on 81 Nutting Road. I don't know if that's him.
Yeah. It's okay, just leave it, it's all right.
I think if we're guessing, we should indicate that.
I mean, I think the question mark is indicating
Yeah.
that we're guessing, so I'm just wondering, is it better to just remove the name if we're not entirely sure?
Part of what I do is I do a comment, and then, because there were so many comments, I named a few of the people, and then I said other comments were, and then I just listed the comments without the names. I don't know.
It might be, let's do that, because I mean, I don't know, maybe if Robert Butler wasn't there, we don't want to attribute a comment to him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think better be safe than sorry. I would say let's move that down to the other comment section. And any
Yeah.
other changes? And March was good for everybody?
Yeah.
All right, do we have a motion to approve the minutes as amended for March and April?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for March and April as amended.
A second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion on the motion?
Second.
Nope, seeing none. Call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion passes unanimously. Any old or new business that we want to discuss this evening?
I think kind of new, not for tonight, but I'd be happy to provide a debrief on my experience trying to facilitate one of these rental stations, both the pros and cons and all the kind of pitfalls, just so we can learn from another city's experience. So if that can be a future agenda item down, if we make progress, I'm happy to.
I think it would be great if we could have an update on this at our next meeting. Mike, from a town manager's perspective, would it be appropriate to put this on the next commission meeting for an update? Do you think you guys would have a chance to do anything on it, given your current load of
I think
projects?
it's a lot to add right now. I think I'd have to talk with Kyle and Michelle.
Meeting after the
see.
next.
If you want to push to July, would that be better?
I think we can probably talk and get with Kristen and see when we think an appropriate time would be, but sooner rather than later.
Okay. And obviously, you have a resource here to collaborate with, right?
And I have no attachment to rent fund, like I've worked with other organizations, so
They're great for a budget starter.
Yeah.
So.
So I'm happy to talk, or I'm happy to talk and or put folks in touch with either Framingham or Maynard, because I work closely with both Conservation Commissions, Parks and Rec, and other folks.
Well, the town manager of Maynard, right, used to be our assistant town manager. So, there you go. We can talk with him. I think he's still there.
Where they did it is a conservation land, so it wasn't, they went through a different process.
Of course they did, because that's all hard.
Framingham is putting it on a Parks and Rec property.
That's a good question. Who owns Forge? Is it Select Board or Rec? Anybody know off the top of their head?
I'm assuming it's.
Select Board would have Karen Custer.
Yeah,
I
or
don't know.
conservation.
No, I don't think it's conservation.
Okay.
I thought.
Edwards, I think, is conservation.
We'll have that answer for the next meeting.
Oh, it'll be on the. I can figure it out. GIS. Okay. Any other updates?
I have one.
Yeah.
Better or worse, I signed up for another 3-year appointment to the commission.
Thank you for your
After my
service.
thought.
All right, that's excellent news. All right, so I didn't put on here, but the next meeting, you guys have any issues with? I guess we're looking at June 2nd. Does that work for everybody?
Yep.
I don't know.
Oh,
Probably.
all right.
June 2nd.
Will that be here at,
I don't see any reason why we would have to have it here, so I would assume it'd be in the Park and Rec office at Rodenbush.
I can't attend, but that's fine. Like I can miss it. I got another meeting I gotta go to.
Okay, sounds good. Motion to adjourn.
I make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.